TikTok, time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all over the world.
Oh no! Now everybody heard me sing the anthem of Israel. Now everyone knows that I'm.
Oh, see, we told you you were a secret Mossad agent and you were a secret Christian and you're a secret. Pretty much everything except what you say you are is what you are.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Well, that's me. What are you gonna do?
Yes. And in case anyone is wondering who I am, you can't trust me because you can't trust us. So you can only trust what other people say about us. So who is David Wood? Let's ask Sheikh Yasser Qadi again.
As for David Wood, I have rarely come across somebody who is more vulgar, vile, foul-mouthed, noxious, repugnant, depraved excuse of a preacher. Whatever he is, David Wood, it is obvious to any person of faith, is not a man of God. He's a vulgar, obscene, evil jerk.
It's funny how he finishes with jerk. Why are you crying, man?
I can't take criticism. Hey, yo.
Yes.
Oh, and I'm with AP. I don't know. What's the latest they're saying about you? What are you now?
Right now I'm on a payroll of the
You
Zionists,
see?
celebrating genocide because I say that Hamas should stop to end the war. Yeah.
Doesn't it suck that we could get accused for just because we say? I mean, guys, think about the big picture here because we're going to be looking at the Mohammed Hijab versus Ben Shapiro thing, and that's a discussion of the conflict that's going on right now. But the main thing in everyone's mind, whether they realize it or not, is they're looking at someone like Ben Shapiro and they're looking at someone like Mohammed Hijab and they're thinking, who would I actually rather have in control of a population that involves Jews and Muslims and Christians and everyone else? Who would we rather have in charge here? Someone like Ben Shapiro or someone like Mohammed Hijab? And pretty much
So
everyone.
look at this, folks. Look at this, folks. Let me tell you, that guy or how dare you? That guy.
Right? People are like, oh, okay, whatever you're saying, you may make a point here or there that we may even agree with, but my goodness, I do not want you in charge of people.
Nope,
And so
not for
that's
us.
kind of the issue. That's kind of the issue. But then, because because no one wants someone like Mohammed Hijab or Ali Dawa or Daniel Hakikatu or any of these guys in charge, then there's a natural inclination to favor pretty much anyone else. Pretty much anyone else. But then whoever you favor, then side with or agree with or sympathize with or whatever, it's you must be getting paid by them.
Yeah,
And so it doesn't it suck though being told for years that we're just being paid to say this stuff and we don't see dime one.
I think it's amazing. I'm just trying to get through the month. But meanwhile, I'm told that I'm getting rich off of, working or shilling for these people, and it's just an amazing feeling.
Oh, here you go, here you go, here you go. Baptist Barbie with the super chat.
Oh,
Baptist
Barbie,
Barbie,
Baptist Barbie. Let's see.
aka Mossad Mary, with her code name Baptist Barbie to cover up the fact that this is how Mossad is transferring the shekels to us. She says, "Hey,
Wow.
my two favorite fellas. God bless y'all. I've been watching you all day. We just went live. We just went live
Yeah.
like 10 seconds ago.
Well, still, yeah, makes
All
sense.
right. So AP,
Yes, that's me.
we're about to. Oh wait, hang on. Secret Christian man, secret Christian man. Oh, I think he's going with the song "Secret Christian Man, Secret Christian Man." You ever heard that one, AP?
I
It's actually
never heard.
Secret Agent Man. It's an oldie. It was before your
Oh,
time. You weren't even born for decades.
yeah, I have no
Um,
idea.
all right, so everyone, we're going to watch Mohammed Hijab's responses to Ben Shapiro. Now, again,
Mohammed Hijab.
there is no scenario where we would want someone like Mohammed Hijab or anyone like him to have power over other people, to enforce his morality over other people. We would not want that under any circumstances. With that said, as much as we find this guy's views repulsive when he says that, deep down, women who criticize, You remember this, AP? Deep down, the women who criticize Islam, they want to be conquered, and they're going to dress up for their captors because deep down they want to be the sex slaves of
Yeah, yeah,
jihadis. As
yeah.
much as this guy sends us messages, golden showers, golden showers. What about the golden showers? Why don't you give him a golden shower? Like, you seriously, this is the guy we should all be listening to. But as you know, as ridiculous as we find this guy, we are willing to listen to him and see if he has any sort of valid point. I'm more inclined to listen to him because every time he talks, he ends up condemning Muhammad without realizing it because there's no concept of consistency. So we're going to go through and we're going to see if Mohammed Hijab has any points when he's blasting away at Ben Shapiro. There will, of course, be lots of chest thumping. Me so strong, me stronger than you weak, me strong. There's going to be that, of course, because that's just what is impressive to his audience. But
You know what's a good thing? While
hi.
as somebody like Mohammed Hijab becomes popular and is acknowledged by mainstream media, all the horrible things that are unacceptable to the average person slowly emerge. Like I've seen news articles lately, like one news article from India, which was like controversial figure Mohammed Hijab's old tweet resurfaces, and that tweet came up,
Oh
the
yeah.
whole thing
Which
about how
one?
women want to be raped. The
Oh yeah.
yeah, I believe certain anti-Muslim women would wish they lived in the medieval period, and so on. Yeah.
That's the problem with these guys, right? And this is, I mean, it's awesome. It's an awesome situation, but they become popular for their group by saying these things that are horrifying to outsiders, but are completely normal to their followers, and their followers cheer for them. Their following gets bigger and bigger and bigger until people with podcasts or the media are like, "Oh, we can get a big audience if we get this guy on with us," and then people find out about his views and then they're horrified, right? They're horrified. And we've seen this over and over. I mean, we brought it up. Jordan Peterson. Hey, I could work with these guys. Hey, they don't like this trans stuff either. Yay, I'll work with them. And then he gets them on there, and then he even apologized. He even apologized for like the one mean thing he ever said. He said, "Well, Muhammad's a warlord. I don't know what to do about that." About that. He didn't know what to do. And he apologized. "Well, I'm sorry, I don't know anything, blah, blah, blah." And then after meeting Mohammed Hijab and seeing, how they act towards, and then, of course, Mohammed Hijab interacting with his daughter and seeing how these guys act, then it's, "I don't like your Allah, the Allah of your misogynistic mullahs," right? And they're absolutely repulsed. But guys, that's what you're going to see over and over and over again. All the Muslim community, the Dawah community, they cheer for their guys. Yes, get Mohammed Hijab on there. Yes, get Daniel Hakikachu on there. And we're the other ones who are cheering. Yes, get Mohammed Hijab on there. Yes, get Daniel Hakikachu. My goodness, just get Ali Dawa on there and let him talk. Just let him talk and talk and talk and talk and talk.
What's the funny thing is, some people tell me, AP, don't you realize that you made this Daniel Hakikachu person popular? If it wasn't for your conversations, nobody would know this guy. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm proud of that.
Yes.
I'm proud of that. I'm happy with the results here.
It's so funny. I think I just told you like yesterday, but I did a different live stream, whatever. I said that I did a poll because there are people who are like, "Oh, wasn't it so much better when it was Shabir Ali and Jamal Badawi and these guys, and not these chest thumping? Oh, yes, we're gonna take our sex slaves and marry little kids and stuff. Wasn't it better having those guys?" And I just asked them, like, who would you rather have? The people who are acknowledging that Islam teaches these things, or the people who deny it? And it was like 90%. Yeah, we would rather have the people who acknowledge it. Right. They do most of our job for it. They are doing most of our job for it. Because back in the day, the vast majority of what we did was trying to show people what's in the Muslim sources. Now these guys come along, they admit we're right about everything, but they just defend it. So now we have to respond to their defenses of it, but we don't have to convince people that these things are actually in the sources.
Yeah, well, the one thing I just find disappointing is that Daniel doesn't, publicly acknowledge and thank me when he goes somewhere, like and thank me for bringing him where he is right now. It's just shameful. It's disgusting.
The Ummah will be thanking you, AP.
Yeah.
Isn't this awesome? Though? I mean, think about this. Everyone who's being moved into place in the Dawah community is someone that people online will cheer for, and that will be absolutely horrifying to everyone else. And
Yeah.
people are worrying, oh no, look who's becoming popular. Awesome, become more popular. If you have a huge pocket, Joe Rogan, get Hijab on there. Better yet, get Daniel Hakikachu on there and just start asking them questions about their beliefs and so on, please.
Seriously.
And make sure they give awesome responses that are very, very powerful and persuasive to their fans, but are absolutely
Seriously.
horrifying to everyone else.
Patrick Bet-David was very disappointing in his response and how the way he handled these people. But I still feel like Joe Rogan would be the perfect host. I've been thinking that for a while. But if Joe Rogan had somebody like Daniel Kikuchu on and asked him these questions, then Daniel Kikuchu basically told him about all the things that he thinks about society and how women should be treated, and marrying children and stuff like that. I think Joe Rogan wouldn't be as indifferent to the crazy stuff as these other people are.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
SCM says, I find it funny that some Palestinians are very anti-Semitic, given the chances are they're descendants of Jews or Samaritans forcibly converted.
You know what? Actually, lots of Palestinians are just descendants of regular Arabs from Egypt, from Jordan, from the other Arabian lands. They have last names which often show where they are from. Lots of them are named according to Hamas leaders. Lots of Palestinians are named Misri, which stands for Egypt. And I showed a video recently on my channel during a live stream where one of the leading Hamas officials appeals to the Muslim world and to the Arab world to help them, and then says explicitly, we Palestinians are from you. Every single Palestinian, half of us is Egyptian, the other half is Saudi Arabian. We are all Arabs. That's what that guy says. Often people propagate this whole idea that there are somehow these these indigenous people who descend from the ancient Canaanites and stuff like that, but that's just not true.
Yeah, you AP, the things you've been saying and tweeting and so on, sounds like you've been studying this. Have you been studying
Yeah.
this, like actually
Yeah.
learning the history? Because sounds like you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. I have.
Well, that's
Kind
good.
of. Yeah.
That's good. Seems like a good time for it.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm really refreshing my memory on a lot of things right now since the whole attack started. Rereading, re-listening, spending like my whole day. I spent like every single day since the first attack happened, just reading and listening to things on that whole stuff. It's
One Way
crazy.
Apologetics says every man wants a woman to look at him with love in her eyes, just like Ali Dawa looks at Mimi Hijab. What are you laughing at, man? Random OK says, here are the shekels we spoke about in Tel Aviv. Thank you, Random, but you're supposed to keep that on the DL. Shh. Let's see. Just want to get these, get through these super chats, and then we'll start a video. Let's see. Sid Dave, I'm an atheist, but I'm a fan of David's work on Islam. We can disagree on Christianity. I learned a lot from you on how to tackle these jihadis and origins of Islam. Your force of good against Islam. And by the, that's my view and AP's view as far as there is this trend of only getting along with people who agree with you on everything, and other than that, everyone has to be enemies. Whereas,
Of course,
no, yeah, it's and then there are other people who are like, hey, I disagree with you on this, but I agree with you on this, and so it's cool on this, and that's kind of how I am.
Oh, dare you disagree with me?
You see. But it is. I mean, it seems like the other position has been becoming more dominant, where you can't get along with anyone unless they're in your tribe. You have to be. You only get along with members of your tribe, and then it's like everything becomes like a cult.
People like to be weirdly tribalistic, and that never really resonated with me. And you are kind of the same way, so it's cool. It's good.
Mr. Archer says, you're talking the way you do because deep down you want to be conquered by these Zionist shekels. Take them now and use them to fool more Gentiles.
Hey, I'm gonna send you a link to a Twitter video if you want to at one point put something on your screen which you haven't seen before, because I thought that was quite funny and interesting. Did you see that video of these guys in Pakistan eating an Israel flag.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Okay, okay,
That was
okay.
nuts, wasn't it? We'll
So,
show you. That's like
so
it reminded. I think they got that from us when we were eating the Quran, right? I think they're like, we'll be like that.
it's so
We'll
weird.
show
Like they're like
them.
acting like savages, like out there protesting, supposedly like, "Rah, rah," eating the flag. All of them. Like,
But it's funny
what do you think that is doing?
because when I did it, it's specifically about Mohammed Hijab, and he's saying he's going after our wives now. He's going to go after the wives and encouraging his hundreds of thousands of followers. Don't go after them. Go after their wives instead. Go after their families. And I say I do that deliberately because I know this will be incredibly offensive to them. Like eating.
Yeah,
Okay, if you want to go that route, then I will eat your book. How about that? And then they stop. But
yeah,
how many people in the world care that these guys are eating an Israeli
yeah,
flag? Like no one. Like you think they're
yeah,
Jews going, oh no, they're eating our flag. They're going, what the heck is wrong with these guys? Anyway,
yeah, yeah,
wild
yeah.
stuff.
I eat people instead. I don't eat flags.
You
Or,
see.
but
Um,
I have to quickly say that that's actually a joke. I'm not promoting cannibalism here, just for the moderators to know.
Snight said, do you think these are prophecies that are coming true at the moment? Amos 1:7, so I'll send a fire upon the wall of Gaza, and it shall devour her strongholds. Zephaniah 2:4, for Gaza shall be deserted. Can't stop prophecy from coming true. Snight, you know I don't know a lot about prophecy, and I don't study it and talk about it. So you must, I'm thinking you just want people to be aware of the prophecy, which is fine, which is, just so you know, that's totally fine. I would have to say, based on a little bit I know, so you have prophecies like Amos and elsewhere talking about Gaza in context. And if you look at the crimes that were committed that led to these prophecies of destruction of Gaza and so on, this would have been, things that the Philistines were doing and were being punished for. So it would depend on your view of prophecy, because we tend to believe that there can be double fulfillments of things. There can be a kind of limited, immediate fulfillment of prophecies, like messianic prophecies. This could apply to a king or something like that of the time, but then its ultimate fulfillment is in the Messiah, Jesus. So the question is, can you do it with other prophecies, like prophecies about Gaza and stuff, so they can have some sort of fulfillment right then, but then some sort of fulfillment later on? And I wouldn't know enough about it to comment. I'm getting a lot of super chats here, man. We might have to just go into the video. I might just have to say I'm not listening to your super chats because we do have a bunch of Mohammed Hijab footage.
I don't care about your super chats.
Anto says, even my Palestinian friends are all Egyptians and Saudi Arabian descended. Also, David and AP, love everything you do. Here's my jizya payment. And Jesus coming. Says, Jesus loves you, AP. Why can't you get the message? You've only been told like 9,000 times.
Huh? Never heard that before. Thank you, though.
You see, it's like, he's like, oh, I never heard it before. I've got my ears closed. Anyway, all right, let's go into some Mohammed Hijab clips. And you haven't seen these? Have you seen any of the two Mohammed Hijab videos that he posted on Shapiro? At least they're the only two I saw.
I haven't watched a single Mohammed Hijab video on my own in a long time because it's just so annoying to me.
Yeah, I don't either. Just specifically for this, because Pierce Morgan played a clip, and then people were telling me Hijab, you're a jackass. So I was like, oh. And Amber says, David, what's your favorite prophet troll from the Bible? Mine is when Elijah asked if Baal was using the bathroom. That's awesome, but I actually like that guy, Micaiah. I think it's Micaiah. He's the dude who, I don't know, I love that dude. He's the guy who went up and the king went to all the false prophets, and the false prophets told him he would be victorious if he just goes out and fight. And then the king of Judah says, isn't there a prophet of Yahweh here? And Micaiah comes forward and he says, go and be victorious. And the king says, come on, you know you're lying to me. Stop it. And he goes, yeah, I actually saw you guys are going to be, your dead bodies are going to be spread all over the field. That's what's actually going to happen to you. And so anyway, he kept messing with him. And then the king says, lock him up until we get back. And Micaiah goes, if you get back at all, I'm not a prophet. And so anyway, he was hilarious. I love that dude.
That sounds
and
good.
Sid Dave, do you think Western left is realizing that Islamists are using the left ecosystem to promote hate and get political power? Left needs to wake up. Yeah, this is pretty crap timing because it looked like the leftist alliance, the Islamic leftist alliance, was breaking down over the LGBTQ stuff. But man, when it comes to Israel, they just jump right back into bed again.
Yeah, there is a lot of it was really breaking down. Much of the left is still, I would say, when you look at it, not in alignment with the whole Islamic camp, but especially some of the real leftist, progressive, socialist, whatever camp, bunch of 12-year-old people. You see a lot of them suddenly support the Palestinian, specifically the Hamas thing. I mean, people send me messages and leave comments on my Twitter now. People who have probably never cared about Palestine or Israel or any of that stuff. Now that this conflict starts, they send me messages about they just want to be left alone. They just want peace. Israel are colonizers. Like just a bunch of weird slogans that are so ignorant that somebody who just heard of the conflict would say, that are just completely factually wrong. But yeah, that definitely brings some of the left-leaning and leftist people back into the camp, into a tent with the Islamists, and that's a little bit troubling. We just have this whole thing going on lately. These new right-wingers, these supposed traditionalists, kind of approaching Islam. And then suddenly now it's again switching over to the leftists doing that. I don't know.
Apu Baker Al Puff Daddy says, T Wood and AP, 2 nights consecutive partay. Are the Muslims descendants of Ishmael? And why did God promise to make them a great nation? The evidence of them actually being Ishmaelites is a bit sketchy. Even if you grant it, you ask, and maybe AP has some thoughts on this, but then why did God promise to make them a great nation? Well, Abraham requested a blessing on Ishmael, but keep in mind, Islam is not the fulfillment of that. That was fulfilled in Genesis 25. It said the 12 princes came from him, so that was already fulfilled. That was fulfilled back then. And if you wanted to say it has a later fulfillment in Islam, which is a common Muslim argument, no, it's not going to be. That Ishmael was not the son of the promise. So there's no way the blessing on Ishmael is going to be that he goes out and destroys everything up to and including the work of the Messiah. So it would make no sense.
Even if you want to look at it from a historical, I don't know, anthropological perspective, the Arabs are just people that are not like one genetically, very similar, very close group. They are not people who all, together descended from a certain line. Arabs were just people back in the day that were named for their lifestyle, for their way of living, for living down there as merchants and wanderers and nomads and this and that, and who just came together in that region. So they're not descendants of the very same people, which is why they had very different skin colors and still do today. They mix with a lot of sub-Saharan Africans, North Africans, Indo-European, other people, Jewish people, and so on. It is said that Mohammed is supposedly a descendant of Ishmael, but that is just it's just completely unverifiable. They had a lot of legends on who they descend from, and everyone just made those claims. There's no way to actually verify that. So that question, it doesn't really have a proper answer. But I guess if you want to go for a strict yes or no answer, it would be no.
And
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And by the way, this is actually connected to what's going on right now. This is actually connected to what's going on right now, because the real root, even though there were political disagreements and conspiracies and war and so on between Muhammad and the Jewish tribes, the real problem at the root of it was when Muhammad was in Mecca, he spent basically 12 years telling his followers that, hey, the Jews can confirm this. The Jews will confirm all of this. All my revelations I'm giving you right now, the Jews will confirm this. If you just ask the Jews, they'll tell you I'm right. The Jews are the authorities on this. In fact, even my own revelations can only be confirmed true by the people of the book. It's Jews and it's Christians, but I'm about to run into some Jews, so you can ask the Jews. And then he moves to Medina, and Jews are like, what? You are the biggest joke in the world. There were two main problems for the Jews in Medina. Muhammad comes along and says, hey guys, I'm a prophet. And there were two main issues. One, I'm an Ishmaelite. And two, Jesus is the Messiah that you need to now accept. And they were like, say what now? Like, what? What? Seriously? And they were vastly more knowledgeable about their scriptures because he knew pretty much nothing except for what he heard from other people about their scriptures, and they could run circles around him. So notice, Muhammad for 12 years makes the Jews kind of this religious authority that he stands or falls with the confirmation and testimony of the Jews. He gets to them and they laugh at him and make a joke out of him. That's the real source of the hostility.
And he gets very, very upset about that.
Yeah, so he gets angrier and angrier and angrier until he's like, we got to expel them, and the hour won't come until you completely wipe these people out. That's how enraged he was. But notice that is connected to his, I'm good because I'm a descendant of Ishmael.
You know what that does in my mind? That whole theory, and that's very likely how it actually happened. I mean, if you follow the hadiths and all of that, I mean, according to Islamic sources. But that sequence of events just makes me think that Muhammad did indeed, in the beginnings or at some point, believe that he was truly a prophet who was truly sent by that God, and he did really expect the Jews to somehow, embrace him and to, I don't know, make alliance with him and celebrate him. And when the Jews were then like, "What are you talking about?" then he got really, really, really upset, and things changed very dramatically.
Is it a good idea for Christians to make common cause with Muslims vis-a-vis issues like the transgender woke ideology? Notice we just said in response to Sid that, hey, if you agree with someone on something and you disagree on something else, then of course you can of course me and AP can work together, even though we have big disagreements. But there is a difference. There is a difference on this one. And we've talked about this in recent weeks, when one side's goal is to annihilate the other side, it's ultimately to subjugate you, and it's to completely exterminate the LGBTQ community, and to subjugate you and the entire world. That's kind of a deal breaker, right? It's like when Patrick Bet David was trying to build bridges and hey guys, Christians and Muslims can work together to combat these issues. Like, hey, what are we going to do about Dylan Mulvaney? And he finds out live that one side literally wants the other side executed. Okay, that's kind of a deal breaker. It's kind of a deal breaker. And hey, you can talk about this issue. I'll talk about this issue, but we're not going to be buddies in all of this.
You have a thing, right? I mean, from a Christian perspective, you have the view, that certain people, like the LGBT community, they are, they're wrong. They have a flawed, way of living. They should be helped, fixed, whatever it is. And whereas the Islamic view is just like, sure, no need for that. Just kill them.
That's what they say, right? Oh, you got a problem? Violence is the solution for everything.
Yeah.
And here again, I want to get into the video, but people are actually asking good questions. They're a little off topic, but they're kind of on the general topic that we're going with. Where do moderate Muslims and cultural Muslims stand on Jews' right to exist and to have a nation Israel? In Islam, Jews are supposed to have a right to exist until the end, when they're being exterminated, as long as Jews are accepting their status as inferior to that of Muslims and are paying jizya. So Muslims are not actually supposed to kill Jews if the Jews acknowledge their inferior status and become dhimmis. As far as moderate Muslims and cultural Muslims, you'll basically you're going to have to go on a person by person basis. A lot of people will still have a problem with Israel, but yeah, you're going to have to look at particular people. The problem is that lots of people who might side with Israel or might be against Hamas or something like that just don't want to say a lot if you're a Muslim, because you'll get trashed as a traitor to your own people and say that, so you're affirming the genocide against babies. Like, no, I'm just saying, can we not resort to terrorism all the time? No, you're saying they're just defending themselves against killing their babies. And so anyway,
I can say that in the Muslim world, so the religious population, most of them have very negative views of Jews and think that they should not be having their own country, especially not among Muslims, especially not in a country that was once at one point Islamic, and especially not in that region. But the brainwashing and the whole conditioning of the hate toward them and the end time prophecies of fighting them and killing them are so strong in the Muslim world that even among the moderates and often people who don't even care much about religion, there is a lot of prejudice, still a lot of hate, and just a lot of sinister feeling when it comes to Jews. It is really a very problematic issue. It's very hard to actually sit down with the Muslim population and have a reasonable conversation about Jews.
Yeah. All right. We got to get this video. So I'm going to zoom through these. So we'll give very quick responses. The super chats are going to make this another 3-hour stream. Actually can't be, because I have to be off about 10. So I don't even know if we're going to finish the first video. Thanks to y'all, but I'm cool with it.
Y'all.
Now, that's the cool thing about live streams. If you don't finish something, you can always do another live stream on it. Sid says, Muslims claim Abraham traveled to Mecca and started the Hajj, but then somehow every subsequent Islamic prophet, Jesus, Noah, forgot about Mecca. Yeah, that is a problem. We've seen them try to work it into where the where the actual trip to the Temple Mount, it's actually talking about the Hajj, which is insane, but they'll kind of believe anything.
Yeah.
Joel. Book of the Prophet Joel 4:17-21. He's saying Muslims should check it out. AP peaked the history of Bulgaria, 480 plus years slavery. Joel Thomas, do you think this will be the wake-up call for liberal fools? What Islam is all really about? It's ridiculous how you can't criticize this cult. It is interesting. Like I'm seriously wonder what's going to happen, because as the Dawa guys and their followers are becoming more aggressive, they're going to be more and more hostile towards LGBTQ stuff, towards anything on the left, towards the woke stuff. And yet they're going to be more openly hostile and calling for attacks on Israel. And so you wonder when the alliances are going to break down.
Inshallah soon.
David, share with us some of the miracles you have seen as a Christian. Thank you, and AP, for the good work. We might want to talk about that on a live stream about miracles, and get some on here. And that way, AP can sit here and explain everything away. Oh, it's just chance. It's just a coincidence. Muslims say they love Jesus, but Jesus was a Jew. Allah, the moon god, and Mo say to kill the Jews, and Christians more contradictions. Again, they're not supposed to just kill all Jews, and they don't have to hate everyone who was a Jew. They'll point out, look, Muhammad married Sophia. She was a Jew. He killed her husband.
Killed her family.
He actually tortured him to death, and beheaded him. But
somebody actually brought that up to me on Twitter recently. Like, you say Muslims hate Jews, but how can they hate Jews when the Prophet's own wife was Jewish? And are you kidding me, man? Like, you mean the one whose family he brutally killed?
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's see. Bruce Banner. Gosh, lots of super chats today. What happened? What happened with all these super chats?
I don't know.
This seems way more than normal. Hey, David, what I heard you visited the Kaaba in a green screen, even so. It's one more time than Abraham. Yeah, I've been in the Kaaba more than Abraham.
Yeah.
And Sid, who could have thought that tribal wars from 7th century Arabia will have such massive influence on human civilization? Islam is worse than Nazism. Yeah, it is amazing how, because Muhammad's entire perspective on Jews changed over a 10-year period. He went from, hey, these are my best buddies, we're all united, we're all on the same page, to, these guys have to be slaughtered. And just because they rejected him. And that shows you like how psychologically messed up. But notice that's tied to anyone who leaves me has to be killed, right? It's all connected. He was traumatized by things that happened early on in life. And the result was massive abandonment issues. And so you can't leave him, you can't reject him, or you're horrible and bad and you must have ulterior motives. Mohammed Hijab is literally like the Hulk, but instead of getting his powers from radiation. What's wrong with you guys? It's funny because I don't even want to read this stuff because it's mean, but like this is how he talks to us.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, this is I'm looking at some polls right now that I have on the side open about what people think per country about Jews, and they have these polls of like people who say Jews are responsible for most of the wars in the world, people dislike Jews because of the way they are, and so on. And the only countries in the world where most people give these negative answers are Muslim countries, aside from except Lebanon, I think, which is understandable because Lebanon had a had a conflict with them freshly and still do. But even I mean, United Arab Emirates, you would think this is a country that is wealthy, well, no problems at all, no fighting, no issues. But even there, like 70% think, 80% that Jews are hated worldwide because of the way they are and stuff like that. It's just these these very idiotic, I would say, hateful ways of thinking, and that is all just inspired by how Islam is.
Any thoughts on the future of Islam in the West? God bless you, NAP. I'm legitimately interested in how this is going to pan out because again, you have like hundreds of thousands of people gathering in certain places and calling for d- death to Israel and stuff like that, and you're like, hey, are people actually going to catch on? And if so, what do you do? Like, what if all these nations wake up and say, hey, we just created a monster? What do we do now? I'm interested because I mean, I tend to believe in peaceful solutions. Hey, stop protecting Islam from criticism and watch it collapse, watch it crumble. Yeah, there will be people who cling to it no matter what. But imagine if all the journalists and the politicians and the educators and the entertainers who spent the past couple decades defending Islam from criticism, what if they were actually honest all of a sudden? I think the avalanche would massively accelerate, and I think that would kind of solve a lot of problems. Um, Gosh, we are getting tons and tons of super chats. I think we're going to have to watch there's two videos. There's a long one and a short one. I think we'll have to watch the short one, and we might just have to postpone the second one. So notice this is your fault, but it's fine because you guys are asking actually pretty cool questions. I could even change the title to awesome Q&A on something, and then.
Oh, this is really good, actually. I like that.
No, again, they're bringing up good stuff. Realistically, do you think the West will propagate a more accurate version of Islam, or Islamic nations will attempt to modernize? I think Islamic nations are going to be modernizing simultaneously with Muslims in the West propagating a more accurate version of Islam. What are your thoughts on that, AP?
Yeah, pretty much the same. Muslims in the West, they deviate very much from how Islam is traditionally in the Muslim world, and the Muslim world is at the same time, as we speak, it is just getting more and more modernized and secularized among the population, while certain states still kind of become religious as a resentment. But yeah, no, I pretty much agree with you there.
Bruce Banner said Mohammed Hijab is the Kim Kardashian of Muslims. It's not true. Kim Kardashian wears more clothes. Let's see. Enough, you Jews and Muslims. Make peace as people of the book. Stop killing each other. Jordan Peterson solving the Palestinian conflict. Oh, I remember that.
Find a pen pal.
I remember that. I totally forgot about that. Oh, hey, guys, don't let me forget. We should have a Jordan Peterson's message to Muslims revisited. We should have a revisit and just go through that again in light of recent stuff.
You know what's so funny? When he published that video, there was especially a section where he said, how Muslims react to, or Muslims consider the disbelievers their enemies, and he said something about a Christian, or God forbid, a Jew. There was that part, and lots of Muslims got outraged about that because Jordan Peterson is promoting this stereotypical Jew hatred among Muslims and stuff like that. And whereas I was just thinking, I mean, everyone knows that is true, but it would be a very funny thing to really to bring specifically that part up right now. And how Jordan Peterson's message was actually not very much, off the target. They just didn't want to acknowledge it.
We definitely have to go Jordan Peterson's message to Muslims revisited. Isn't that an awesome title for a little live stream?
God forbid, a Jew. Yeah. Yes, we should.
That'd be awesome. Jeff Derbla, do Muslims believe in progressive theology? Muhammad starts as a friend to Jews and Christians. After a while, do not. Yeah, Muslims believe in progressive revelation. They believe in a doctrine of abrogation. Doesn't really work on this because I mean it's really weird to think, but given their view of Scripture that this is Allah's eternal speech, and in Allah's eternal speech are things like Muhammad can only confirm his revelations by making sure they line up with the revelations of the Jews and Christians. You've got stuff like that. You've got Muhammad saying, you've got Muhammad and Allah saying that the Jewish and Christian scriptures are as good as gold, and that Jews are supposed to judge by the Torah, Christians are supposed to judge by the gospel, Muslims are supposed to judge by the Quran. You have all of these things and all of these claims about how awesome all the people of the book are, and as things go on, it gets worse and worse and worse until the Jews and Christians have to be completely violently subjugated. And it's just weird to think that Allah's eternal speech in his eternal word is changing constantly based on Muhammad's feelings about whether someone is nice to him or mean to him.
That's just because Muhammad is special.
Wouldn't Allah know that the Jews are eventually going to be mean to Muhammad, and he wouldn't need to make them these authorities that they were made in Mecca?
No. Allah was trying to demonstrate that is all for a reason. Yeah.
David, in a recent live stream, you said that Hamas would not be as stupid as Muhammad to eat from their enemy, but look up the story of Rachel. Is that the woman who made food for them? I mean, if she wasn't poisoning them, I can imagine them having a woman. You want to look that up real quick, AP? Matter of fact, let's look it up. Rachel.
Israeli woman who cooked for her Hamas captors, saved with help of police officer's son.
Yeah, so Hamas would definitely allow someone to be their servant if they've captured someone or something like that. They would do that. But I'm sure they're going to keep an eye on her, right? And that she doesn't just have a batch of poison there. When Muhammad does it, he does it in Khaybar. So he's just conquered them. He slaughters this woman's entire family. And then she comes and offers, hey guys, I've cooked some dinner for you. You want it? You want it? And yeah, duh, I love lamb.
Wow, wait, this is very interesting. She cooks for them. They hold her, with held by the throat by an armed terrorist in her home. They go to rescue. Her son is part of the rescue team. She makes a sign to the son for in some way, just putting her hand on her face and basically saying there are 5 people here,
Wow.
And I don't know, it's an interesting story. Wow,
she sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Is this now, or is this like an old story?
Really smart. I think this is from now, from the current conflict. The news is from October 10. Interesting.
Might need to check this out.
Wow.
Bubba says, do you have an opinion on the works of Mustafa Eichel? He's a Turkish, well, then he's AP's buddy. AP, what do you think about your Turkish American brother?
Oh,
advocating the softer side of Islam?
I know about him. It's
taught by the Mu'tazilas.
It's Akil. Yeah, I know about him. He has a very, very reformist attitude. He was also one of the people from the beginning who said we should not be celebrating the thing that Hamas did. This is horrible. He is a generally reasonable, peaceful guy, and is not unlike these other reformists that we sometimes deal with. He's not hostile like the average Muslims. I don't know. I haven't looked very much into his work and into his way of thinking.
Yeah, there's a way in which it's irrelevant, right? There's you actually hope that some of the saner, nonviolent people become more prominent and so on, but at the end of the day, they're not the ones that are growing in popularity. So I've had discussions with Khalil Andani, and I mean, he went up against Jake the Muslim meta magician who magically challenges us to debates constantly and then constantly backs down and disappears. But I mean, Khalil crushed him. So you think, okay, some of these other guys, I mean, he's an Ismaili, an Ismaili Shia, but some of these other guys can actually crush other Muslims in debates. So why aren't their views more popular? And you have to say, hey, I wish some of the more moderate guys, or the more philosophical guys, or the less violent guys were were the popular ones, but they're not, right? So it's just kind of, okay, whatever the case may be, this is the thing that's growing rapidly. This is the one calling for your violent subjugation. So you have to deal with this. And they're claiming allegiance to their prophet. And so guess what? That guy over there who's saying they're wrong, if these guys actually win, that guy's head's gonna be on a chopping block too.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what ISIS did. Anyone who wasn't fully on board was executed or turned into some sort of sex slave or something like that. So, yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
Baptist Barbie again. What do we call her? Mossad Mary? Secret name?
Yeah.
Transferring the shekels. I have to say, I love this new system of transferring the shekels by pretending everyone's asking questions.
yeah. That's amazing, man. Good color.
Inshallah, AP will be Christian one day. I watched him and Ali Dawa's debate last night. Wow, you watched that last night?
You watched
I was
that?
so mad for AP because of Ali Wussy interrupting and eating grapes. I don't know, but I've heard that it was smiles to Jenna. He's actually got a dude feeding him grapes.
Yeah.
That is what is up with these guys?
It was so painful to sit there and actually try to have a conversation with him. But I feel like it was one of those cases where I kind of felt like it felt like a reward to endure this severe form of torture of having to sit there and argue with him just to expose to everyone what an idiot he is, and it was really worth it.
Yeah, even a lot of his fans thought he did terribly on that, which is crazy because I was actually thinking, hey, Ali Dawa runs around and acts like he's some sort of debater. So I've never seen him debate. I've never seen this guy in an actual debate, not once. So I was interested in seeing him, and then he's sitting there being fed grapes by a dude. I can't imagine a scenario where I'm going to let or want a guy to sit there feeding me grapes.
Yeah.
What is this? That's so creepy, man. These are creepy dudes with
and his own fellow Muslims called him out on how he didn't answer a single question that I asked, but kept wanting to ask me questions. He just made his religion look ridiculous.
Isn't it weird? I'm serious. Like how creepy these dudes are. You've got Ali Dawa saying, if my daughter gets her first period at the age of 9, I tell her she's ready to be married. And you've got Mohammed Hijab, golden showers. You just need golden showers. I love golden showers. Skip. Right? We get those messages. And then you got Daniel Hakikachu. Well, yeah, even if she's 11-month-old, but you probably won't get parental consent to have sex with her. What if you do?
But if there are signs,
like the creepiest, weirdest dudes on the planet. And the creepier and weirder you are, the more popular you become in Dawa. I mean, AP, there comes a point where you have to start thinking there's something demonic going on, right? Like this is not like normal human beings could not possibly be this mental without some spiritual kind of evil going on.
Maybe.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome if you eventually converted to Christianity. You were like, I saw how insanely evil these guys are, and I thought, there's no way this could just be biological. Yeah. There must be a spiritual dimension. Go ahead. What were you saying?
You know what? The most messed up thing to me is that after that kind of stuff, after sitting there and speaking to hundreds and thousands of people and saying dumb stuff like, if there are signs, even if she's 4 years old, you could marry her, and you could marry and have sex with her. And then they come out of that and think, yes, we completely crushed the disbelievers. MashaAllah, our brother really showed those Islamophobes. And that's what they think. I mean, there was not even much embarrassment from the other side going on. It's like they think they actually did something. And that's what's messed up to me.
Yeah. David says, we also discuss how Talmudic Judaism caused this. To be clear on the things we've said about the Talmud and so on, we've pointed out there are issues in the Talmud because here's how it normally goes. Someone will say, aha, the Talmud says this and all Jews believe this or something like that. We'll say, no, all Jews don't believe that. And that the Talmud doesn't say that this is what you have to hold. It'll say a rabbi said this, and it'll say other rabbis said other things. But what you can say is, yes, if you are a fan of Rabbi so-and-so who says this messed up thing in the Talmud, and you say, I go with his position rather than this other guy, you can end up with a certain view of non-Jews and so on. So these can have things to do with the problem. I just have to say, at the end of the day, if you're looking at where the real problem towards any sort of peaceful resolution to a problem lies, it's Muhammad. That's the
I
main
have
problem.
to I have to say one thing here, which is so Israel, the founding of Israel, in any of the documents that led to the founding of Israel and the ones that declared the founding of Israel, in none of them you will find God mentioned. In none of them you will find like Jewish law or any of that mentioned. It is all entirely just built on the idea of we are a group, we are a unity, we should stick together, this and that, build a nation where we tolerate each other and where we are tolerated because this is what we learned, this is what we should be. In the current Israeli society, the the people who define themselves as secular are the majority, and I think even when it comes to the question, does God play a role in your life, or does religion play a role in your life, the majority of Israelis say no. So uh, much of the Israeli politics, Israeli governance is totally detached from Talmudic or Jewish way of thinking. The very orthodox part is a very small minority in Israel. So it's hard to believe that has an impact on anything.
Uh, yeah, so it's basically, again, it comes down to individuals can have you can have individuals who like Rabbi so and so and what he said. But as AP's pointing out, that's not a part of the official position of Israel specifically because you have a ton of different positions within Judaism. You even have Jews who are completely atheists, and so they're working together in Israel. So
I think half of Israelis don't even believe in God, like half of Israeli Jews.
yeah, they have a
So,
massive yeah, they're like the highest percent. I mean, I think they're
yeah,
one of the highest percentages of people who are just
yeah, yeah.
who are
So that's so
atheists.
weird to me when people try to depict them as like it's because of their
I would,
religion, because their religion
yeah.
says this and that. They don't even believe in God. What are you talking about?
Sid Dave says, David AP, you should do a call-in show. We've actually talked in the past about just like having a daily, just like hour-long chat live stream or something like that.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, we'll see what happens. My goodness. Christian Princess stream. Christian Princess stream last night was hilarious. David, when are you and AP going to do a stream with him? I'd be perfect timing right now. Much love. No, you're not going to be calling Christian Princess and telling us to work with him with your vicious insults, calling him Christian Princess. Marilyn Murphy says, just like the love of money is the root of evil, the hatred of Jews and everyone else is the root of the trouble with Muslims. Yeah, I mean, if you really think of it, at the end of the day, Muslims have 49 countries where they're the majority. 49 countries where they're the majority. And Nigeria, in I think like 2 decades or something like that, is supposed to be number 50. And Jews have one little tiny spot, and that's too much. That's too much for them to have. And
Yeah.
and jihadis are willing to wage an eternal war, and it doesn't matter how many people get killed, as long as we don't let them have that one little spot. Which is interesting because in the Quran, I have to say, it frequently sounds like Allah wants the Jews to have their spot. But again, it wasn't, you have to wonder how this relates to other later condemnations of the Jews and calls for the extermination. But you have a bunch of Quran passages that sound like Allah is saying that the Jews have control there. Oops. Said Dave, make a movie on Muhammad's life. That itself will collapse Islam. Imagine if the 50-year-old man with a 6-year-old girl in a movie and marrying his daughter. Showing this on film will drive Muslims crazy. Yeah, the difficult part there is like, I mean, we did something goofy like Islamicize me, and budgets go pretty high pretty quickly. I've thought in the past about doing it like doing a Life of Muhammad, but like claymation or Lego stop motion or something like that. But that also seems like a lot of work. I need a lot of people sort of helping out with the Lego stuff because I've never done anything like that. But yeah, what do you think, AP, on Life of Muhammad stuff? Love to see it. I'd love to see it. I would love to see Hollywood say, we're going to put $200 million into a Life of Muhammad movie. Don't change anything.
Amazing.
Just do it. Life of Muhammad according to Ibn Asaq or something like that. Just Ibn Asaq's Life of Muhammad. Boom.
It would be amazing to have a
Blockbuster.
series on the life of Mohammed. I just don't trust Hollywood.
Can
and
you
all that
imagine Muhammad flying around on that magic donkey monster and stuff, and then the music kicks in, the everlasting story. Da, 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 da. That'd be awesome.
I was always imagining a scene of Muhammad flying on the back of a horse, but slightly changed with Aisha, and it's just I can show you the world, like the Aladdin song.
Mhm.
I thought that would be fantastic. I still want to make such a video, actually, a cartoon. I don't know, but it's kind of messed up to do that with a little child and
Yeah,
an old man. Yeah.
yeah. Thinking about how Islam could have been avoided if Muhammad had a Snickers bar. You know, when you're not you when you're hungry, or
Yeah.
you probably would have had a
Yeah.
thinking of what he would have been eating. But the first thing that popped in my head is this, like camel urine and stuff. But that's not.
Yeah.
That's different. Do Muslims mean Christians will judge by the gospel or New Testament? How much of the New Testament did Muhammad actually know? God bless. Very little. And in fact, I mean, keep in mind, Muhammad only knows what he hears. Only knows what he hears other people saying. And you did have some of these later apocryphal works from the 2nd through the 6th century circulating in Arabia. We've talked before about how Emperor Justinian expelled heretics from the Roman Empire, and a lot of them ended up in Arabia with some weird sources. And that's why you get a kind of mixture of weird nonsense about, Jesus giving life to clay birds and Jesus speaking as a baby and so on, which you don't have any early. We know where these stories come from. It comes from much later. They're not true. No one no historian on the planet regards these things as authentic. Notice Muhammad couldn't tell the difference. If Muhammad hears a story about Jesus performing a miracle, which is actually from a 1st century source, and he hears something else that's actually from a 6th century source, Muhammad doesn't know the difference. He's hearing both of them. And so it's not clear that Muhammad has any clue what he's talking about when he's talking about these scriptures. But he's affirming that Christians do have a book that's called the Gospel. And so if you were to make any sense of this, you have to say, so from the 2nd century on, the 4 Gospels, if you're talking about a book, you could preach the gospel, but if you're talking about a book, the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, were treated as a unit just called the Gospel. You could have a later source, the Arabic infancy gospel or something. You could have something else later on. But from the 2nd century on, if you were talking about the gospel, and you just said the gospel, that could refer to the preaching. If you're referring to a book, that would refer to the 4-fold gospel. So you're talking about Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They treated it as a unit from the 2nd century onward, just called the gospel. So if you're trying to make sense of this, and you don't have to, you could just say Muhammad didn't know what he's talking about. If you think that Allah did know what he's talking about in the Quran and he's affirming the gospel, and he's just saying the gospel, Christians have the gospel, it's either the 4-fold gospel or it's the entire New Testament. And I'm saying the New Testament because even though Muhammad referred to the Torah, you can see how at their interpretation, they included Isaiah as the Torah. So they're including the full basically Old Testament as the Torah. So if you could say that, you could think that Muhammad and Allah are doing that with the gospel as well, that Christians had the 4-fold gospel, which they call the gospel. But you could say that it includes the entire New Testament. But the point is, you don't know, but Muslim explanations don't make any sense. So either it's talking about the 4-fold gospel, or it's talking about the New Testament in general, or it makes absolutely no sense. It would be like me going to Muslims and constantly saying, hey, I affirm the Quran. I believe in your Quran. You've got the Quran. And then they say, hey, David believes in the Quran. I say, no, I'm talking about some later work from 5 centuries after the time of Muhammad that you don't even have, you have no access to. That's what I'm talking about. It would make no sense. That's what I'm saying. It would make no sense. So you're either talking about the scriptures that Christians actually have that go back to the 1st century, or if you're talking about something later or something that we didn't even call the gospel, it just makes no sense. And Allah's a horrible communicator once again.
Yeah, I mean, the Quran refers to the gospel, and it uses the word in Arabic, Injil, and it says, the Injil which they have when it refers to Christians, and if it refers to some odd gospel that some people down there have, what does that say about God's knowledge? What does it say about what Allah is trying to communicate to us? I mean, it doesn't make any sense in our context, in a larger global context. The Quran uses the word Injil, which is directly translated from the Greek evangelion, which was then the used word for the four Gospels combined, or just the New Testament. So it's just very clear that it refers to the scripture that the Christians believed in, and Islam makes it look like, so the Christians have a book, the Christians have their religious book, and the Jews have their religious book. The Jews have the Torah, and the Christians have the Injil. So, in a very ignorant, completely ignorant way, it just refers to the Christian Holy Scripture, and thereby makes a huge mistake because it affirms it, and
Yeah.
then but
Yeah.
that scripture is completely contradictory with Quran, with Islam.
Yeah, and by the way, Mike Q922, this is one of the best areas to study if you're a Christian, because there's no way out of this for Muslims, right? Allah is saying, hey, you Christians, you judge by your gospel. You have to stand upon the gospel that you have. And he's using as AP pointed out, the word evangelion, which is where we get our word Injil. That's a Greek word. He's talking about some sort of Greek book. And there's no way out of this. There's no way out of this because Allah repeatedly says that Christians have this book and that they have to judge by that book. And when the Quran puts itself as an authority, it's to send Jews back to the Torah and Christians back to the gospel. And so Muslims will respond, oh no, when the Quran says gospel, it's talking about a book given to Jesus. Oh, wait a minute. Christians in 7th century Arabia didn't have a book by Jesus, but Allah says he's affirming their book. What did they have? So it's either the gospel, what every Christian would have called the gospel, which would have been either, again, the entire New Testament, or the collection of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Or some Muslims will say, he's talking about this other gospel. It's talking about this other gospel. Okay, guess what? Find me any gospel that lines up with Islam. Find me one, anywhere. And no matter how heretical, no matter how insane, find me any one. They'll go with the medieval forgery, the Gospel of Barnabas. Even the Gospel of Barnabas. Doesn't agree with Islam. Nothing. There isn't a gospel anywhere that lines up with Islam. So you can actually say to your Muslim friend, show me what Allah's talking about. Allah says I have it. Allah commands me to judge by it. Allah says this is authoritative. What is he talking about? And if you can't tell me, then it's just a mess and there's no way around it.
Well.
Sanquay says, saw some liberal Jews turn against Black Lives Matter and such for defending Hamas instead of going not all Muslims. Have jihadis and their Sims finally gone too far? That is what's interesting. I mean, when you saw people celebrating the hang gliders and stuff like this and wearing badges of the hang gliders and stuff, which is how these guys got into the concert to just start massacring people and so on. They're kind of exposing themselves as where they really stand. They want to exterminate Jews too. And so you've got the liberal Jews going, whoa, we thought we were kind of on the same side here with these guys. What's going on? But guess what? Israel's response is going to upset a lot of people too. And a lot of people are going to go, whoa, Israel's going way too far. And the result likely will be further polarization, right?
This is what kind of makes me a little bit angry, and I'm not sure how to talk about this, but I feel like it goes because I feel like it goes down a very sensitive path here. But so a lot of the secular Jews or left-leaning Jews in the West were kind of bought into this whole illusion of there's a lot of prejudice against those people, against those Muslims. We should be comfortable with them. We should be understanding. We should be this and that. No Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, and Islamophobia are both bad. While the religious Jews are basically warning them, the secular Jews have no clue what's going on in the world and think they're doing the right thing here. And now they are suddenly finding out, wait a second. So we just defended these guys. We defended their religion and their whole, their struggle and all of that. But they are just okay with us being completely massacred by celebrating an event where civilians were directly targeted and shot. 260 dead bodies were found from that festival. They indiscriminately just killed random people. that attended a festival simply because they are Israelis, simply because any civilian there is by definition to them an invader and an enemy, which is why it doesn't matter if they are combatants or non-combatants. So they just indiscriminately started shooting at people and committing all kinds of atrocities. Now
That's
these secular Jews who did all the protecting are having a rude awakening, but will they actually learn from this?
yeah, that's one of the problems that, I mean, with the response from like the Dawa guys talking about, oh yes, we don't approve of non-combatants killing non-combatants and so on. Wait, when you use the language of occupation, these are all occupiers.
Yeah.
These women are all occupiers. They're all occupiers on your land, according to you. And so, yeah, that's rough. By the way, I don't remember the context because I heard people talk about it, but when Daniel Hakikachu, he said something about, you're worried about the death of a whore or something like that. Was that one of the people at the concert or something he was
Yes,
talking
yes, it was the woman who was she was at the concert. She was dancing there. We have a video of her uploaded on social media just before the attack. She's dancing, and then she's abducted, apparently severely mistreated. Her legs are both broken. She's stripped naked, put on the back of a pickup truck, with these Hamas animals sitting on her, putting her legs on her.
Oh,
And
that was
the
her.
population then,
Daniel was commenting on the
yes,
the
yes,
woman
yes,
in the back of the
yes,
truck. Okay, that's
people
messed up.
berating and spitting on her, and he says he calls her a rave prostitute. That's what he refers to. You know,
Yep. And keep in mind, he's like one of the champions of Dawa now. I mean, he's
yeah.
buddies with Mohammed Hijab now, and they're working together. And again, do you want these guys who are like, oh, who cares about that whore?
Yeah.
You want these guys having control over the area? Seriously?
They would kill all of you. They wouldn't even care. They would kill all of you if it was.
Yeah, I mean,
And
they
would
acknowledge that, and Daniel flat out admitted. He flat out said, yes, apostates and blasphemers. So that's multiple death sentences for AP, and that's one death sentence for me. So we're both dead if we let these guys take over. And everyone's, oh, you got to let them take over. What the heck?
Yeah, because what? Dylan Mulvaney, let's talk about that.
Apologetics Roadshow. I just saw your video about your little boy. I'm so happy he's with Jesus and so sorry for your loss. I can't imagine how awful that is. I love the Reedy dance. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I wish I had. I just called it the Reedy dance because he would get in his chair and he'd start rocking back and forth and shake his legs with a big smile. And I wish I'd recorded that a lot more because he did that. He did that all the time. But we're not. We're normally like smiling and laughing and stuff like that, but we weren't recording it. Sid says, all non-Muslims, atheists, Christians, Jews, Hindus, Buddhists, ex-Muslims, or anyone, we all have to be allied against this evil force. There is a sense in which, guys, once you have a group that calls for all of your violent subjugation, everyone has to be violently subjugated, and a bunch of people on that list, the only options you will have is convert or be executed. Christians and Jews would have the option, theoretically, not if the jihadis are particularly enraged, but in theory, how it's supposed to work is Christians and Jews are supposed to have a third option. We can become dhimmis. We can pay tribute money. But the point, I do not want to be a dhimmi. I do not want to be subjugated, and I don't want to see everyone else who's not a Jew or a Christian exterminated or forcibly converted. And so, yes, there's a sense it's like, okay, we can argue about all these things and all these different situations. If we're in a building and it's on fire and it's about to collapse on all of us, it's a pretty good time to work together on some things. So, yeah,
they talk about apartheid. The dhimmi system is worse than apartheid. It's like you are second class beings that who are only allowed to be alive because you pledge to pay an amount of money as protection to the Islamic ruler. If you fail to pay, if you don't pay it, if you refuse to pay it, then you are basically fair game. So you can be killed randomly, and nobody can be held responsible for it. You have significantly lower rights. You have to basically, if you sit outside and a Muslim wants to take your seat, you have to get up and let them sit. You have to wear distinct clothing and stuff. It's just really messed up.
If your church is falling apart, you can't fix it.
You can't build new churches. Yeah.
Um, Graves says, have you guys covered the whole protocols of the elders of Zion thing? The Hamas charter constantly referencing it finally got me around to reading it. Yeah, that's a forgery. That's a forgery
Yeah.
meant to stoke anti-Semitism. So I've never been interested in it, but there are people who still believe that this is what Jews are secretly passing around as their plots and so on. So
That's what they do.
so I don't know. We might need to read it and cover it and just to expose it at some point.
There's a website and also an account on social media called Elder of Zion, which is basically just a parody of that, making fun of it, and then defending certain Jewish viewpoints and doing some very good job. But yeah, that's conspiracy theories like that are just insane.
Sid Dave says Israelis follow Judaism, speak Hebrew, which are native to the land called Israel. So Israel is a valid state and revival of original culture of the land. Palestinians follow Islam, speak Arabic, which are from outside. Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned before, I'm not even thinking of this as who has some historic right to the land, which you can. You can say, hey, that this is the Jewish homeland and so on. There are people who think like that. I'm just thinking in terms of the present. Here, you have a country, and you have a group who wants to slaughter everyone in that country, and so you've got the Palestinians, and if you should want what's best for the Palestinians. You should want them to eventually get past this and so on. You shouldn't want all Jews exterminated. So it'd be good to have a peaceful solution to all of this, but that's just there's an obstacle. There's something that completely blocks the possibility of a peaceful solution, and that's Hamas and the teachings of Muhammad. That is the obstacle, and so I don't see how to get past it. I mean, without one side crushing the other, I mean, just completely crushing the other, I don't see how to get past the thing with Muhammad. Apart from constantly exposing Muhammad, until you don't have enough people taking it seriously, or don't have enough people, until people give up the idea, hey, we're going to go out and just wipe out the Jews. So again, I mean, there are people, like I just did a live stream with Michael Brown and so on. He's talking about God's covenant with the Jews and bringing them back and so on. And there are plenty of Christians who view it like that. I'm not even saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that's not how I'm thinking of it. I'm just thinking, okay, you got a nation here, you got people over here, and this side wants to completely exterminate that side. And there's a group that's constantly trying to stoke violent reactions from the other side just for photo ops and so on. And then you've got like Iran. It's been pointed out, Saudi Arabia and Israel were normalizing. They're gonna get along. They're gonna be friends now. And then all of a sudden you get this Hamas bloodbath funded by Iran, which if you don't know the layout, Iran is horrified. Iran is the competitor with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is going to, hey, we're on the side with Israel now. That's horrifying to Iran. So what do? They fund a bloodbath, knowing that now Saudi Arabia can't be friends with the Jews, right? Because then they would be viewed as traitors. So it's like tons of political stuff, and ultimately derives from Muhammad's feelings being hurt by the Jews and so on. But it's like the Palestinians are just pawns in the political games of other people who have other
used.
goals.
Yep.
They're totally used. So you don't have to be hostile towards the Palestinians, and you should want what's best for them. But yeah. So anyway, those are my thoughts.
You know what's interesting about this? Even during the founding of Israel, the Zionist movement, they actually they bothered sitting down and debating about what is in the best interest of how the Arabs would feel. Like they had this whole thing, whether the name that they give to their own state, which they are building, would be, okay with the local Muslim Arabs or not, what their state would be called. Like they were trying to take their sensitivities and all of that into consideration. At the same time, however, the Arabs were just waiting to find an opportunity to, to gather all the other Arab forces and to remove the Zionists and take all of the land and, basically committed the genocide that Hamas right now is working for. And this is kind of the difference in, I guess, I don't know what you want to call it, in moral foundation, in a regard for the lives and sensitivities of others. and yet we are told all the time, no, it's the Zionists, they want to do this and that. The Arabs are just fighting for freedom and peace.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Isn't like does it seem like everyone's insane, right? Like, doesn't it
Yeah.
seem that way?
Yeah. Yes. That's what it feels like.
I mean, you're just looking around at the world, and it's like, yeah, we celebrate the hang gliders. And it's like, no, you need to slaughter all these, hey, slaughter all, no, slaughter all this. My goodness, guys. Oh boy. The
Yeah.
Sneak says, Muhammad is a puppet of Satan. Such pride could cause a violent change like that, and his insidious nature influenced belief over the years. Yeah, I mean, I really believe that. I really believe that Muhammad losing every close relationship he had when he was a child. We know the impact that has on people psychologically. You end up with attachment problems and abandonment issues. If you lose every close relationship you have, when you tend to like cling to stuff, like you're gonna lose it, and it affects you for the rest of your life. And then we see how Muhammad acts. No one can marry one of his wives after he dies. No one can leave his religion. Anyone, he'll praise you until you disagree with him, and then you have to be annihilated and so on. When he took Mecca, I mean, these guys who had been at war with him, he's okay with them, but women singing girls who sang songs about him, they have to die. Like, he could not stand being disrespected or insulted or having people abandon him. And it's like, dude,
Yeah.
you got mental problems, and now your mental problems are imprinted on a lot of people, right? The exact same problems, which are just based on your feelings and your abandonment issues. Now the entire world is suffering, and countless millions of people have died over the years because Muhammad's childhood trauma.
Alhamdulillah.
Juan Castro, Daniel Pikachu made an article debunking the miracle of Fatima, which there were thousands of witnesses, but believes splitting of the moon by Muhammad with no witnesses from 1400 years ago.
He also believes that there were at one point giants walking on the earth, and that the scientific community is in on an elaborate conspiracy to hide any sign of those giants and to make it look like giants never existed.
I've heard. I didn't see him saying it, but is it? I think Daniel. I've heard. I haven't seen him say this, but someone said that Daniel doesn't believe that dinosaurs ever existed, and that he doesn't believe that human beings have gone into space or things like that.
Yeah, he thinks that humans were never able to actually go to outer space. So the question of whether the moon landing actually happened or not is not even you can't even go that far, because it wouldn't even be possible for them to even reach to go outside of the bounds of the earth. Just, I don't know, the guy just has a very sick mind.
Yeah, and again, the miracle of the splitting of the moon doesn't sound like that's what the Quran is saying. The Quran repeatedly denies that Muhammad can perform miracles when he's challenged over and over and over again. These the verses where Muhammad is challenged to perform miracles and Allah constantly makes excuses, those were revealed after Muslims say he split the moon. It's ridiculous. So it's a weird situation where you're not just saying, do we have good evidence that this miracle occurred? It's that your earliest source repeatedly denies that the miracle occurred, and it's much later sources that say the miracle occurred, and they contradict your only early source. And so it's like, how do we even take this seriously enough to investigate?
Alhamdulillah.
Mischievous Art says, imagine the looks on their faces when Al-Aqsa will be taken down by the Jews for the third temple to be built. I sometimes wonder about that. Like I'd love to see peaceful resolution. I don't think they're going to do it, but sometimes I wonder, like, why do you put up with this mosque right there for so long when they do not abide by the same rules, right? Muslims, we conquered this area, the Kaaba is ours. Oh, we conquered this area, Hagia Sophia is now a mosque. They have no problems with any of this. And yet you've got the Dome of the Rock and a giant mosque right in the middle of Jerusalem, and kind of shows you how they are trying to avoid just flat out war. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though they win it.
I think I don't know if if a lot of other countries, if they were in Israel's place, would have long ended the whole Gaza Hamas theater, but they're just kind of enduring it and just going on, and have so far like went along with a possible way to find a peaceful solution and all of that. And I feel like they genuinely really just want to avoid a great imbalance in the region. I mean, they were just really happy right now about possibly finding a normalizing of relations with Saudi Arabia, which would mean that was a huge step forward. It would have brought a lot of balance into the Middle East. And then this attack happens and everything
Yeah.
goes insane again.
And isn't the timing interesting? Because notice, I mean, if Israel had, if it had normal relations with Saudi Arabia and the rest of the Middle East and so on, it's going to become a thing. Hey, why don't we'll go in there and we'll talk to the Palestinians and make sure they're no longer supporting Hamas and supporting the terrorist attacks, and can we just get them their own state, and we'll keep an eye on them, and we'll make sure they're not trying to kill you and stuff. It would all worked out. Everyone would have got what they want. Except Hamas and the terrorists who want and Iran who want an endless bloodbath and so on. So nope, you gotta start a bloodbath. And whose fault is it? The Jews.
Hamas has absolutely no tolerance for a solution that involves talking to Israel and compromising on a part of what they consider Palestine.
Yeah,
They
that's
want
what.
all of it, and so like they were enemies with the Palestinian Liberation Organization, which was in talks with Israel after decades of fighting. They sat down and started coming to peace agreements and making finding a proper two-state solution. But Hamas was outraged about that. They became really seriously armed and really dangerous because of that, because to them that was betrayal. So, and any Muslim or any Arab attempt to somehow find peace with Israel to them is just pure betrayal and must be crushed. And today, people on the internet who just found out about the conflicts still think, no, they just want to have peace.
Yeah. Yep. And so it's rough because if you look at Hamas, their biggest influence is religion, right? It's Mohammed said, we have to exterminate these people. We cannot allow them to have any sort of victory over us when we're supposed to be wiping them out. Their motivation seems to be almost entirely religious, whereas Iran, it seems to be mostly political. But they're willing to work with Hamas and so on, because at the end of the day, they still want a bloodbath. Both sides want a bloodbath. Samuel Tawhid says, Nick Cage in The Leather Straps of the Anus. Guys, if you're new here and you don't know what this is talking about, we've talked about it before, but there are hadiths where it's funny because Muhammad goes around bragging that one of the evidences that he's a prophet is his amazing sayings, that he's been blessed with these awesome words of eloquence, that he can explain things with such eloquence. And you look at his claims, and it's like he says things like, the eyes are the leather strap of the anus, and then like you have to go to commentaries to figure out what he's talking about. And it's just we always find it funny that this is supposedly a miracle that he's been giving, is his awesome sayings, and it ranks right up there with his miracle of look at the mole on my back, I've got a mole. We should do a comparison one day of the arguments that Muhammad actually used, which are some of the dumbest, most insanely idiotic things in the universe, versus the arguments that Muslims use today. But the arguments that they use today, they now admit that were all based on lies. And so you wonder, were you going to go back to the amazing mole and his amazing sayings about leather straps of the anus?
Hey, that would be the whole "Mole on My Back" would be a good country song. Like, I got a mole on my back.
Got a mole on my back, I'm a prophet.
And that means I'm a prophet.
So, we're coming up with awesome ideas here.
Yeah, fantastic.
JD says, hi guys, recently came across this channel and have been really enjoying the content you both make. As a fellow sociopathic Christian, David has given me hope that I can one day mimic human emotion as well as he can. God bless, praying for you both. You're supposed to start when you're young, JD. supposed to start when you're young. I mean, you know, it's never too late to learn. Like you could learn a new language right now and so on. But yeah, you gotta practice. I actually remember the very first time I deliberately mimicked other people's emotions. I was either 6 or 7, and I've talked about I've talked about like when I was 5 and my dog died, and I thought my mom was weird because she was crying. But it's like a year or two later, and we were living in a house, and we had a dog, and that dog got hit by a car and died. And then everyone had their heads down at the table, and they were all crying. And I was like, wow, everyone's like this. And I remember thinking that it was the angle of the head, that it was the angle of the head was how you showed that you're sad. So I tried to blend in and I leaned my head down. And then one of the other kids, his name was Todd, he goes, Dave don't even care. And I was like, crap, right? I thought it was the head angle. So I learned, okay, it's not the head angle. And anyway, yeah, you gotta find this stuff, figure this stuff out over time. You could do it, man. It can be done. I'm living proof.
Nice.
Mr. Crane just said, hey guys, started reading Son of Hamas, stream with Yusuf. It might be, yeah, you guys, if anyone, I hadn't thought about it, but yeah, people might want to ask Yusuf if he wants to do any live streams. But I mean, really, he should be on some like big shows with like Pierce Morgan or PBD right here. Said also PBD podcast soon, David. I have no plans for being on the PBD podcast. It's for losers. No, I'm just kidding. I don't put myself forward as to be on various programs and so on. So it's not something I seek.
Why not? People should be harassing PBD and say, "Oh, you're scared. That's why you don't invite David Wood."
I kind of like sitting back watching other people talk.
Yeah, but you have to do it like
let
the
these
Muslim
other guys
side.
talk. Yeah, we could. Hey, everyone contact this podcast and say I have to be on it and so on.
Why are you scared to invite David Wood? You know he will destroy you.
With that said, I mean PBD podcast is cool because he does seem like he's an intelligent guy. He seems to have good intentions. He's not just striving for popularity or something. He does seem to want to accomplish good things in the world and get people in conversations and so on. So yeah, I like him. I've only seen I think a couple of them, but good. Seems like a good guy. And it's looking like Hezbollah wants to be destroyed soon. Yeah, that's the other thing. See, Hezbollah is more powerful than Hamas. Hezbollah is more dangerous than Hamas, and they're messing around. They've been messing around on the northern border. So, but I mean, like Israel can annihilate any of these guys anytime they want. They've got an air force that can just bomb all these guys to smithereens. They try to escalate according to the threat. But if Hezbollah becomes a huge problem, Hezbollah will also be completely wiped out.
It's so ridiculous. Like yesterday, I mentioned this to you as well, but during the stream, I mentioned it. Like from Syria, they fired missiles toward Israel. Israel just to show, hey, don't mess with us. Immediately fired back with precision artillery and destroyed an airport. So that's what they did. But then
that's what we call a warning.
Yeah, but they actually from Syria they just fired imprecise rockets toward Israel. Israel immediately fires artillery back and destroys an international airport, which is very valuable. It's like, don't mess with us. But you know what? And then you see the response from the people who are against Israel. They're like, why is Israel now bombing Syria? They're trying to drag us all to war. Look at this. Are you kidding me, man?
Yeah. It's wild stuff. Lucid here says, even secular Muslims hate Israel. Jew hate runs deep. Again, you have to go. You could say one position is more dominant than the other, but you do have different views. But yes, it is disturbingly common. Like I pointed out before, Nabil, I mean, he's an Ahmadi. They're pretty much as peaceful as you can get. Maybe some of the philosophical Ismaili Muslims or something like that might be in the same category as far as not wanting to fight or something like that. But even Nabil, when we were talking, he had a problem with Israel. He had a problem with Israel that would anytime there was news about Israel coming, you'd see it come out of him. So there is some underlying hostility there that is extremely prevalent. But again, even the people who have no problem with Jews and have no problem with Israel, they're not exactly able to announce that to the world, because then they're traitors. Hey, we just heard we heard a second ago from a fellow Christian sociopath, but that's Sheikh Boyardee too. That's three of us. There are three Christian psychopaths in this live stream. This is interesting. That's got to be a
What's with
record.
all these psychopaths, man?
Sheikh Boyardee says Islam already had a bad. Yeah, this. Matter of fact, this is interesting to think about. Islam already had a bad apostasy problem. It will be interesting to watch what will happen now to Islam. It's not going to be good, as most Muslims are decent people, and I expect to see a big exodus. And this is what I've been thinking for a while. It's you've got the Dawa guys from 20, 30 years ago, and I've pointed out before, these guys were selected based on who's going to make a good impression on Westerners. That's who you're putting forward. Then we get to the age of the internet, and any Dawa guy who gets a following suddenly becomes popular and suddenly becomes a representative of Islam. But so now the selection process isn't who's going to be the best, give the best impression to Westerners. Now it's who's most popular among Muslims. And you get people who are completely different. And so you get guys who are way more aggressive. You get people who are defending child marriage instead of lying about it, defending wife beating instead of lying about it, defending killing of apostates instead of lying about it. And it's a completely different crowd, but they're the ones becoming more and more popular. But it was Mohammed Hijab who did a poll a couple of years ago where he said, hey, when you start to doubt Islam, when you start to doubt whether Muhammad's a prophet, what is the main issue? And he gave a list of possible things that can make you doubt. The biggest factor by far was the morality of Muhammad.
Yeah, I remember. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, I want to go find them. I'm sure people have screenshots. It might even still be up somewhere. But it's interesting. So notice you had all these people who were Muslims, and lots of them really believed that Islam doesn't teach these things about child marriage and beating women into submission and subjugating the world. And then lots of people who converted to Islam because they heard, no, Islam's peaceful and Islam's wonderful and Muhammad was a champion of women's rights and all this nonsense. And now it's just becoming glaringly obvious, hey, that's not true. And it does support child marriage. And you can marry a 4-year-old. And it's becoming clear. And so, yeah, you're going to get sort of normal people who are like, I want nothing to do with this, man. I want nothing to do with this. All the while, the Dawa guys are thumping their chests, talking about how awesome they are. But think about the spiral. More people will leave Islam because they're horrified at what it teaches. But then when you're the Muslims who remain, you're like, oh no, the avalanche is accelerating. Who's going to save us from this avalanche of apostasy? Our only hope is our Dawa guys. They're fueling the problem. They're the ones making the problem for you. I mean, apart from Muhammad's teachings themselves, the Dawa guys thumping their chests and acting like idiots, and it only impresses their own guys, but it's horrifyingly ridiculous to everyone else. Notice the spiral. It's, oh no, people are leaving Islam. Let's go with our Dawa guys. The Dawa guys become more and more popular and better funded, which cause more people to leave Islam. And then, oh no, what are we going to do? Help us, Dawa guys. It's like people who are lost at sea, and you get really thirsty because you have no water, and you start drinking salt water. That makes you more thirsty, and you drink more, and then you're dead. And
instead, you have to drink urine, like especially if you have camels around on your boat. Yeah.
Yep.
Camel urine.
Got to have the pee-pee. So yes, absolutely. I expect the avalanche to accelerate. It's going to be interesting to watch.
It's going to become an avalanche, a tsunami.
A tsunami. Kevin says, thank you so much for your great work in fearlessly exposing the bad fruit of Islam. Your work is demolishing strongholds of the evil one. Yes, and I mean, I've been doing this for a while, and I remember it was a very lonely world back in the day. There was one guy in Australia going against Islam. There was one guy in Canada. There were like 2 or 3 of us in the US. There was Jay Smith in the UK, but there were not a lot of people dealing with Islam. Now there's a lot of people dealing with Islam. And it is awesome.
This just shows that people are Islamophobic. Yeah.
Jeremy Point, he must not have seen yesterday, but he said, son of Hamas founder converted to Christianity. Is there propaganda from both sides in this war? It's so difficult to know what's true and not. Yeah, that's actually, as far as the propaganda issue, we've already talked about son of Hamas, but as far as propaganda, yes, especially in the age of the internet, everyone is using propaganda. Everyone. Everyone's I don't mean every person, I mean every side of every issue. People are using propaganda. So yes, you will find people on every side using videos or pictures from 10 years ago in a different country and saying, you see, look at what's happening and so on. Yeah, so
Yeah, during war, propaganda is just a common tool that people will use. And right now, especially with a lot of people who don't have knowledge, who don't have the authority, everyone has access to to sharing information. A lot of misinformation is going around. I say you will say, I mean, people will say that I'm obviously biased here, but when I look at social media, I see that it's overwhelmingly the anti-Israel, pro-Hamas side that is currently spreading a lot of misinformation. You can see that by the very very large abundance of community notes that are stamped on these tweets. But yeah, you will find misinformation from both sides.
indeed. Tracy here says nations in the area always hated the Jews. If Islam was forgotten, wouldn't the hatred still exist? Um, in with Islam, I mean, with Islam, you've got a different sort of scenario. Like I don't know what you're talking about with everyone hated the Jews or something like that. Like I don't know if you're going back to the Moabites and the Ammonites and so on around them. Not terribly relevant anymore. The main reason for the hatred of the surrounding nations right now is Islam.
Yeah.
And it's a certain kind of hatred that is this group has to be completely exterminated. Just saying you don't like them or something like that, that's a different category. Or saying, hey, I don't like this country, that's a different category. There are all kinds of countries I don't like. Right? You don't have to like everyone. You don't have to agree with everyone. You can think that various groups are a problem and so on. The thing that we really, really have to object to is there are groups that completely want to exterminate another group, men, women,
Yeah.
and children. They want to wipe them out. And so that's a problem. And I don't care what the group is. If you said, hey, I don't like North Korea, therefore we need to go in there and exterminate every man, woman, and child. Nope, can't be on board with that. Undercover Pro. Hey, David, you still debating in November? Yes. Got two debates. Got a debate with a Muslim on Mohammed and a debate with an atheist on whether metaphysical naturalism is true. Metaphysical naturalism is basically what used to be atheism. Back in the day, if 30 years ago, if you said you're an atheist, it meant you just believe in the natural world's all that exists and so on. Whereas now it has like the negative sense of I just lack belief in God. So you can believe in all kinds of other things, but you lack belief in God, you'd still be an atheist. But yeah, so we're focusing on actual metaphysical naturalism and whether it's true. So that should be fun.
It is a metaphysical matter.
Peace be upon him. What a joke. Peace be upon him. What a joke. It is kind of a joke when it's like Muslims really seem to believe that Allah's eternal state somehow depends on them constantly blessing him. It's like, wait, like what are you talking about?
And I mean, there are hadith of Muhammad saying that Muhammad basically cursing those who don't say peace be upon him when they mention him. It's so messed up, which is why that is the thing. Like they have to always say, "Oh, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, sallallahu alaihi wasallam." Yeah, Muhammad, yeah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's so ridiculous.
Joseph said, if Arab countries actually cared about Palestinian people, they would give them citizenship. None of them do. It's always been about land and Islam. You have had countries like Syria and Jordan that have taken in lots of Palestinians over the years. In fact, they're probably so packed that it's not reasonable to expect like Jordan to take in anymore. Jordan has taken in a lot over the years. But you have other countries, I mean, Saudi Arabia and a lot of these other countries, they have tons of land and tons of money. They have no reason why they couldn't take in. The response would be, well, they shouldn't have to get off this land. It's their land or something like that. But, you have to just look at this and say, okay, you're obviously not solving this through violence. You're obviously not conquering Israel. It's not going to happen. Give it up. If your concern is actually the people, especially if your concern is the women and children, guess what? Egypt's got that border. Egypt's got that border with them, and could say, hey, bring the women and children right here, and Hamas could let them through. If that were actually the concern, if the concern were the welfare of people, that is entirely under the control of Muslims. Muslims could take the women and children and put them in a different place so that they're completely safe from war. They refuse to do so. Egypt doesn't open the border, and Hamas will not let people leave. And then it's Israel's fault when women and children are going to die in this battle.
It always is. Yeah. It is.
No question. I just don't want this gross money anymore. No question. I just don't want this gross money anymore. Sankei said, Muhammad's first meeting with the angel sounds a lot like demonic possession. Hey, you're not the first one to think that. You know who also thought that? You know who also thought Muhammad's first revelation was demonic possession? Muhammad thought that. Muhammad's first impression of his revelations was that they were demonic. He thought he was possessed by a demon. Yeah. He was worried that people were going to make fun of him, and he tried to commit suicide. But whatever it was that he encountered, which he thought was a demon, wouldn't let him. So wouldn't let him jump off a cliff. So then he goes and runs to Khadijah. Save me, save me, save me. Wife.
And the conclusion was, of course, it's not a possession. Of course, I'm not crazy. Of course, it's
your husband sounds crazy and suicidal, and you say, "Don't worry, you're a prophet." He goes, "Oh, I am." Like, wait, you didn't see what happened. You didn't see what he encountered. You don't know what he meant.
I don't need to see. I believe
he thought it was demonic, and you're trying to talk him off a cliff. And we'll take you seriously.
Don't worry. Yeah. I believe you. You are a prophet. It is Allah talking to you. Just don't kill yourself.
Yeah. Saudi informed U.S. resumed peace talks with Israel. What's this? Was he saying?
There were news today on that whole thing. Saudi is kind of getting a step back from their whole. There were talks, or there were rumors, and even I think reports that Saudi Arabia is turning away from Israel and trying to have closer ties with Iran because of a possible conflict here. But that changed again today. So Biden said, and America said, that the Saudi Arabia-Israel thing is not dead. It is resuming. They are in talks.
And I mean, think about that, guys. If for people with good intentions, other nations should be jumping in saying, hey, we want a peaceful resolution. Israel, we're not going to tell you what to do for a little bit of time because we understand you just had a bloodbath and you need to hunt these guys down. But after that, why don't we all get together? Why don't we all get together and figure out how to keep this stuff from happening in the future? I mean, it seems like, you've got a lot of powerful nations, a lot of very rich nations, and this problem does seem fixable in the sense that you do have nations who aren't, even though they may be thinking, hey, we eventually want to crush the Jews or something like that. They're willing to get along for now. And so, I don't know.
Isn't this so stupid? This reminds me of, a little dumb guy who just can't accept that things will not go the way he wants
what it's
it.
Like.
Goes and tries to anger this big guy in such a way. Of course, the anger now includes killing their whole families and taking their women and raping them and massacring entire populations, burning their house down. And now this big guy naturally is angry and is like, you know what, I'm done with this, and goes in and gets violent and says, we are going to finish this now. And now the whole world is like, no, hold on. Now the world is trying to save that little idiot, and that's what we're dealing with now.
Yeah. a spoiled crybaby flipping out, throwing
Yeah,
a tantrum on the floor at Walmart because his mommy wouldn't buy him a pack of Skittles that he wanted.
yeah,
And now the
yeah.
entire world is supposed to gather around that little crying child and say, okay, we'll give you whatever you want. What do you want? You want those Skittles?
Don't
We'll give you
worry,
what you
don't
want. That
worry.
doesn't fix the problem. Sometimes you just
Yeah.
have to tell people. And it's funny. I'm sure everyone who grew up when I did, I heard it all the time when I was looking. I want such and such. My mom would go, you can't always get what you want. That Rolling Stones song ruined a lot of things for a lot of kids because every parent back then would instantly start singing "You can't always get what you want" when you wanted something, and you just got to start singing that. Matter of fact, we need an Islamic version of the song that's geared towards. I want to conquer the entire world and subjugate everyone to get my sex slave. You can't always get what you want, sports. Shua the King says, when Muhammad was asked to perform a miracle, why did Allah make excuses instead of saying the Quran is a miracle? That implies it wasn't a miracle. Oh, I mean, he did say the Quran is the miracle. But so you have all these passages where it's just making an excuse about the miracle. But you do have the Quran is a miracle, is Muhammad's miracle as well. So you have both. It's just it's not what anyone's thinking in terms of a miracle, right? People are thinking, hey, Moses split the Red Sea and Jesus walked on water and rose from the dead. What do? I I got a book. Look, it's awesome. I got this. No one can do anything like this. What are you talking about? All these guys around you can do this. Oh, but I mean, Umar says mine's the best. That makes mine the best. Wait, what? Who makes Umar the authority on it? I don't know. I'll kill you. Right? What? This is. Yeah. Wow.
It is such a miraculous book that they had to, beat and kill and bully entire populations into accepting it, and people don't even want to read it because it is so terrible. That's the miracle.
Super chat from Bella. Mo said, can you look into having Kent Hovind on as a guest author of the book? What on earth is about to happen, for heaven's sake? Hadn't thought about it. I know Kent Hovind was a debater on like evolution and creationism and stuff back in the day, but yeah, hadn't really thought about that.
I remember him from Ali G.
Oh yeah, he was on the Ali G show. All right. and Ali G was going. He asked the atheist. He goes, "Does you like bananas?" Oh wait, or was he asking Kent Hovind? Was he asking Kent Hovind if he liked bananas, and then saying therefore he came from a monkey or something like? But monkeys like bananas. You see how it goes? He can't answer that one.
And then he was accusing them of not flushing after going to the toilet.
We need a show like that. We need a show like that. Strap-on pleasure machine with the picture of Daniel. Says PBD podcast is scared of the strap-on pleasure machine. Yeah, I still haven't watched that. I still want to see what he said or what point he was trying to make with that. But yeah, PBD should have him on his podcast to explain the strap-on pleasure machine and whatever argument he's trying to make out of that. Peterson, Levinsky, O'Gene says, what you guys think about the whole phosphorus attack on Gaza? If that's true, it's really bad, in my opinion. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. You heard about that?
There are reports that Israel used white phosphorus. Yeah, white phosphorus, which is just an extremely hot, substance dropped that I think reaches, I don't know, 800 something degrees. It's just as soon as it makes contact with the skin, it completely burns it up. So it's really messed up. And there are regulations, international laws in place by which it is not to be used against humans, not to be used in civilian areas. But the thing is, it can be used to cause a smoke screen, for strategic uses. And there are reports that Israel did use it. Nothing fully confirmed, but I think even Human Rights Watch confirmed it. I mean, if they did, in such a densely populated region, it's very dangerous to use that, and they might get in trouble with that. And I think that's a little bit messed up.
Yeah, I
but I'm
have.
not entirely sure about the details.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about it, so I won't comment. But yeah, if we're talking about illegal or chemical weapons or chemical,
Well,
it'd
the
be a
thing
big problem.
itself, the thing itself is not illegal. It's just illegal to use it against civilian populations
Hmm.
or against, I think, against humans in general.
Yeah,
It's supposed to be used only as a
against humans
strategic.
in general, you just toss it on some dogs. What's wrong with you, man? You see this? Atheist says dump phosphorus on dogs. What's wrong with you, man? Some people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, whatever. So we can sit here and say, hey, Muhammad's teachings are the main obstacle towards any sort of conflict resolution here. But you do have to keep an eye on people because people can cross lines. But yeah, don't know enough about this to comment. First time hearing about it.
Hmm.
Cheryl says, just curious, have either of you seen Douglas Murray's response to the proportional response that Israel should give? No, I saw Ben Shapiro's response to the proportional response. Ben Shapiro's response was, I don't believe in proportional response to terrorism. I believe in massively disproportionate response to terrorism. I don't know what I think about that. I believe you have to crush terrorists. But yeah, in your disproportionate response, you do have to think about all the people who are in the middle of this,
Yeah.
who might not be part of it.
It's just this is one of the most difficult conflicts to talk about, and yet one of the most talked conflicts in the world, probably because it is so difficult. But it's just you have two separate populations in these territories, um, and you have different political parties that are in charge of both of these. And one of those political parties happens to be a very insane, hateful, gang-like jihadist group that that has no tolerance at all for the other side, and no tolerance for peace, and that also seemingly pressures and bullies parts of the population into supporting them and doing whatever they say. So and it's hard to tell how many people among the regular population are actually supporting them and how many people are not. And but then again, that terrorist group Hamas, is also hiding among the population. They are operating from civilian buildings, from hospitals, from apartment buildings, and so on. It's very hard to deal with it. How do you deal with this? They launch attacks from there. They attack the civilian population. They pour in and take hostages, and then they go and hide in residential apartments and hospitals. How are you supposed to deal with that without having a lot of casualties? It's very
That's what sucks right now. Like, guys, you can quote me. I'll probably say this here, but I think Israel's going to end up doing all kinds of things that I would not approve of and that I would think are
yeah.
messed up. And hey, how could
Yeah.
you bomb this place? And look at that. Look at the kids being pulled out of the rubble. They're going to do all kinds of things like that. And I'm also thinking, like, what do you do? What do you do when a group of terrorists come and kill a bunch of people and then just go blend in with the population? What do you do? I mean, like, I don't know. I don't know of a solution here that actually fixes this. So that's the. And
No,
guess
I
what?
don't want to.
Guess what? Hamas knows that they're putting Israel in this position. They know it. That's the plan, right?
Yes.
We put them in a position where they either just let us slide, or they kill a bunch of people and end up killing women and children. And then we got our photo ops. And it's like they
Yeah.
know they're putting them in that position, and it's
It's like a
deliberate. And so,
strategic thing there to
yeah.
to basically implicate the other side. And I don't want to insinuate anything, but we had very important historical events during the Second World War, for example, or other times where very, very big attacks happened that were considered needed, that are still nowadays considered, when you look back, that were considered necessary in order to put an end to the conflict. When it comes to, for example, ending the whole the Nazi regime in Germany, some really messed up bombings of entire cities happened, where the civilians were like eradicated,
Oh, look at, I mean,
or
Hiroshima
the
and
nuclear,
Nagasaki, right?
yeah,
I mean,
Hiroshima and Nagasaki were,
you're talking nuclear, right? And it was just, they're looking at this going, here's how difficult an actual invasion will
yeah,
be. And here are these people's sense of honor. And they calculate, we're literally going to have to go door to door fighting because these guys have this sense of honor where they will not back down unless they are just completely overwhelmed and the leaders are forced to back down. And they calculated as horrifyingly messed up as it is to just blow up cities, that's actually better than the alternative. And so they went with that. And you can look at that and say, messed up. I look at that and I say, that is really, really messed up. But it's like, okay,
and what happened?
You're in a war. It's like, what is the alternative? Is the alternative actually just as bad or worse? But yeah, it's rough stuff. And
it ended the war.
Little Bullet says the Islamophobia accusation is a sword masquerading as a shield. I think that means it's like they're pretending they're defending themselves, but they're actually using this as a weapon.
Yes.
Yeah, they're definitely using this as a weapon. Daniel Jones says Muhammad was the Trump of this. Oh, how dare you criticize Trump? How dare you criticize Donald Trump? Muhammad was the Trump of the 7th century, a cult that appealed to the worst inklings of toxic masculinity. Isaiah not only predicted Christ, but also Muhammad. Trump is definitely different from Muhammad in some very, very significant ways. But you've got something that's going on that certain people have a personality that rallies around them, and you end up with some cult features of your group. And if you're you Trump fans, you don't have to flip out over this. Trump himself acknowledged this when he was originally campaigning, and he said, I have the best fans. I could literally walk down Fifth Avenue spraying people with machine gun fire. They'd all support me anyway. He's bragging about it. Right? So now my concern now is everyone's going to end up like this. Everyone's going to end up following some sort of not an actual cult, but a leader who knows how to rally people around him and to set his group in opposition to everyone else. I'm concerned that everyone is going to click up, join a tribe, and you have to join a tribe because there are other tribes that are all coming after everyone. And so in order to even feel safe in the world, you have to join your group and your group that's going to protect you. And looks like that. So notice, you can be a leader who rallies people around you and stirs up people to be completely loyal to you and so on. And you could otherwise have good ideas and so on. But the concern is like everyone becoming like that and everyone becoming massively tribal. Notice you're not going to be able to be on your own anymore because you're going to feel like you're being attacked from every side by all these different groups. And so you're going to have to say, hey, which group do I like the best? Join that group. But then that group is going to, you got to pay the toll. And the toll is you have to be completely loyal to your group. You can't question your group because as soon as you question your group, they say, you're really part of that other group. You're a traitor here. And you don't want to do that because then you'll be in no man's land again. That's not a good feeling. And so, guys, everyone's going to be like this on every side. And what I mean here is you can have a group when everyone feels like they're being attacked, someone will arise within that group and says, hey, everyone be loyal to me. And I'm going to be your champion. I'm going to stand up for you. And people will rally around that person. And that's going to happen. It's going to happen to everyone. And you already see it in the Dawa. That's what's going on in the Dawa community. When you look at this going, how can these guys think this is a good idea when they're acting like insane? They feel threatened. Muslims feel threatened. And see, if you don't feel like you're being threatened, you don't feel like you're under attack, you can just, hey, what do? I wake up, I go to work, I come home, I watch TV, I hang out with my family, I do these things. When you feel like you're being attacked, your whole mentality changes, right? Now you're in fight mode. And when you're in fight mode, especially if you think there are a bunch of groups out there that are more powerful than you and they're out to get you, you're like, okay, you look for a champion to rally around, the guy who's going to fight for you. So this isn't a criticism. And I'm not even criticizing the Muslims who are doing this. That is a tendency of human beings. You act one way when you don't feel like you're being threatened. You act a different way. You go into a different mindset when you feel like you're being threatened. And there are politicians and religious leaders and so on who are going to take advantage of that. And
then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on. There's a hero inside you, something like that, which is a song by Mariah Carey. But so the good thing about Donald
Mariah
Trump,
Carey?
Yes, the good thing about Donald Trump is that
I'm singing the Rolling Stones, and you're singing Mariah Carey on.
Now the good thing about Donald Trump would be, I would say, the way he picks his women, his wives, like he picks models. Whereas if Mohammed was around today, he would probably go to a daycare to pick a new
That's
wife.
true. Much better.
Yeah, yeah.
And by the way, keep in mind, everyone, you can actually like a person who's like that, right? Like if you're like when I'm really thinking about it, what sort of leader would I prefer? I'd prefer a leader that everyone respects and everyone gets along. And you had that back in the day, right? Like you had people who you had Republicans who were okay with Clinton, apart from the depends on what your definition of is and things like that. You had Democrats who liked Ronald Reagan and so on. I would like to have a leader that everyone kind of likes or respects. The question is, have we moved past that? Now you can't have it anymore. And if you can't have it anymore because things are so polarized and everyone is at, what happens is now you pick a leader based on who's going to tick off the other side. So you can be like, hey, in a perfect world, we'd all have a leader that we all liked and we all, but we can't have that anymore because we've become too divided. So I really want the leader who's going to piss off the other side as much as possible. And that would be Donald Trump.
Alhamdulillah.
Thanks for doing this work. Radar Apologetics. Dems, the Nazis renamed. Lucid said, is Islam Earth's largest cult of personality?
Yeah, I call it the cult of Muhammad. I called it that, and it's very interesting. Yeah,
maybe I'd have to think about it. I would say largest.
Not the
cult.
best cult. Not the best cult.
I mean, I think about when you think about the absolute devotion to Muhammad. We'll kill cartoonists. We'll kill everyone. Slaughter everyone. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Said, let's help the dying babies and innocents. Love to. Right now, the best way would be to get them out of the way, and Hamas won't let them out of the way because Hamas wants them to die. And that's messed up. I mean, it's like, hey, I know this building's going to be burned down. Let me bring a bunch of kids in there so they all die too, and then we can make a point out of it. Yeah, screw that.
It's amazing to me. I never really that whole idea of being proudly standing here and rather dying than this and that. I never really liked that whole idea, and it never really meant much to me. But it's amazing to me how people will just put up such a horrible fight over territory, and then do something like this, where instead of providing peace for the very people that they live around, or the very people that they are in charge with, they rather want to cause casualties. They rather want people to die. They rather want their own people to die. They want to watch their own people die to somehow win, to become heroes, whatever it is, instead of just working toward peace. And it's insane to me how humans think as a non-human.
Revelation description of the Antichrist is how the Quran describes Jesus. And the temple of the mount where the abomination is, where Islam says will rule, is the Quran therefore coming from below? Just a question. I have to say, since I started studying Islam, I've always had mixed feelings about the real source. Like some of it you read when Muhammad, Satan pees in your ears, Satan sleeps in your nose and this and that. The eyes are the leather strap of the anus. It sounds like so idiotic. And especially when you look at Islam and it just looks like a combination of everything that's around Muhammad during that time. It looks like it just has a human or a purely human origin. You look at other things, like Muhammad thinking that he's demon possessed, Muhammad thinking that he's a victim of black magic, the satanic verses. When Muhammad receives his revelations, you can interpret it as like epileptic fits or something like that. But it also sounds like demonic possession sometimes and so on. So
yeah. Yes.
And then when you think about how like Islam is like this perfect reversal of the gospel, right? Like, Muhammad comes along and, hey, Christians, I agree with you that God exists. I agree with you. Jesus is born of a virgin. I agree with you. Jesus is the Messiah. I agree with you. Jesus performed all these miracles. I agree with you. Jesus is going to return. but we have to disagree on his death, resurrection, and deity. So let's just flip that. But that's the core of the gospel, right? So it's like you are the perfect false prophet. It's not just you're a false prophet. It's like you are the ultimate perfect false prophet. And so some of that stuff looks, it does look demonic to me.
See, you said something good about Muhammad. He's perfect.
You see, and see, AP, he can't agree that there's demonic, so he just has to attribute everything to chance.
CAP? What is CAP?
CAP, cap. We have a message from Allah himself here.
Oh, nice.
Assalamu alaikum.
It's kind of late.
Please take this stream down or else I will split the moon again. Free Palestine. All right, you heard it here, folks. We're going to take down the stream. We got a free Palestine or else we'll split the moon again. Fortunately, no one will notice, just like last time.
I just have one question. Yeah, because people were asleep at night. That's why. I just have one question. So what did Mohammed Hijab say about Ben Shapiro?
What? What'd you say?
The stream is titled Mohammed Hijab slams Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, who? I'm going to change that as soon as we're done. I'm going to change it to like live Q&A. We're just going to have to redo this one because I have the videos ready and all that stuff. We just didn't get to them. We're gonna have to do it and just start with the videos and then do the super chats later.
Easy second live stream.
Like you do.
We can just do another live stream.
Yeah, that's cool. We're already ready for the next live stream.
Yeah, already ready.
A dude stated that Christianity has an average of 178 million victims of deaths up until 2008 and Islam 31 million. Do you guys know how true that is? Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. You're not talking about like Christians who've been killed. You talk about what? Christians killing? And that there's 178 million victims of Christians. Yeah, I'd have to see what numbers. I think that's probably like how many people died in World War II, and you say that's Christianity. Christianity is responsible for that. And how many people died in World War I? You just add up all the numbers, and you say, oh, these are Christian. These are the deaths that have to do with Christianity. And Islam only 31 million. When even so, notice that generally has nothing to do with Christianity. So it's weird. They're just saying, oh, you do have this tendency. Everything in the West, that's all Christian. That's all Christianity. So that's nonsense. Even in Islam, you have wars that are about Islam. You also have wars in Islam that are just purely political, two countries fighting with each other, something like that over something. So yeah, I'd have to see what those actual calculations are based on. And, notice really when you're talking about, oh, look how many people died in like World War II versus, some of these Islamic battles, that has a lot more to do with technology than anything else. The West became far more technologically advanced than the Muslim world. If the Muslim world had nuclear bombs and had the same level of technology, my goodness, the entire world would be exterminated.
Yeah. Yes.
What are you talking about, AP? You can blast Christians right now. It's your chance. You don't have a dog in this fight. No one pointed a finger at atheists. No one pointed a finger at atheists.
I couldn't even. I was just going to say. I would consider it entirely possible if you take the colonization and all that into consideration, that you could come to the conclusion that in wars that involved Christians, there were more deaths compared to wars that involved Muslims. But the thing is, for example, the whole colonization, the entire nature of it, how it was conducted, and all of that is quite different from jihad, for example, from the Islamic wars, which were specifically done to spread the banner of Islam, to spread Islam everywhere, to make everyone Muslim, to make Islam rule over everyone and everything. Whereas the primary motive in much of the expansion of Europeans or Christians was not necessarily Christianity. It's not really the same thing there.
Yeah. Bella says, can you please do a Jordan Peterson, I don't buy your Allah? Yeah, we need to put that. I want that. I want to go find that clip because I want to put that to where we can use it. Yeah, I want that. I want that on my little soundboard. Because I have things like this on here,
and we're proud of that.
But yeah, I'd love to have. I don't buy your Allah from your misogynistic mullahs. Yeah, we definitely need that one.
Yeah,
that's a good one to have. Zane says, can we get the video? What video? Is he talking about Mohammed Hijab?
What are you talking about? What video?
You guys, we don't know what you're talking about, Zane. We don't even know what you're talking about. Slifer says, David, why did you shave your beard? I was actually going to trim my beard because I wanted to record a video. And I have two guards. I have two guards on my clippers. One that's a little longer that I use for here, and then a shorter one to trim around. And I accidentally had the shorter one on, and I went, "Ew," and I was like, "Uh-oh." I just took it all off. So yeah, that's it. But I was like, once I started, I was like, that's cool. It just means I can go longer without needing to trim it again.
Solid.
All right, we need to zoom through a couple of these because we're gonna have to cut off this thing, knowing that we're just gonna have another one. Hamas was hit in a crossfire, woke up in a hospital after surgery, surrounded by nurses and doctors. Stunt. Well, is this the promise of Allah and Jannah, 7 virgins? You talk about a jihadi woke up in a hospital surrounded by
Yeah,
nurses. What's wrong?
possibly. That makes sense.
Hamas has planned the attack on Israel for 2 years. They knew that Israel was going to respond in this way. It's exactly what Hamas wants. Exactly. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And the timing right now, they've been planning this for a while. It's just when you're going to pull the trigger. You want to plan in motion for when you need to pull the trigger. And you pull the trigger when Iran says you pull the trigger to
Yeah,
block
it was a very elaborate attack, like a very coordinated
No,
strike
I
from
mean, yeah, they were going
all
over the fences, through
directions.
the fences, under the fences, everything.
Yeah, so they planned that long ahead. And still, it was a disaster, and now they are paying for it and playing the victim.
Who would be each of yours most challenging debate? You mean like who do we think that if we debated them, it would be the most challenging, or like what is our
Or who
most challenging
was it
debate
about the past,
in our,
or
yeah, and even then it would depend, like who is the actual, who had the best arguments or who had the best rhetoric or something like that. There could be different criteria. So yeah, I don't know. I've been in like, I lost count a long time ago, probably between 80 and 90 debates somewhere in there. I need to count so I can celebrate when I reach 100.
so I had a debate with Michael in Inspiring Philosophy a long time ago, and I didn't prepare for it at all because I thought it's just a casual
So no,
introduction to having
no,
a
no.
debate on God.
You
And
thought dumb Christian, dumb Christian. You don't realize you're going against one of the goats there.
yeah, no, that was
That's a machine.
I I mean that was he was completely superior there, and yeah, I wouldn't feel confident having a debate against him, honestly.
Daniel did, and Daniel admitted you can have sex with an 11-month-old baby as long as you get parental permission. And as Fareed would say, how can it be rape if you have parental consent?
Yeah,
So it's not rape if you're having sex with an 11-month-old baby. Do you think Republicans are making a mistake by not reaching out to non-Christians? Many Jews, after recent events, Hindus, Christian minorities from the Middle East will vote Republican if Republicans tried. I don't pay too much attention to politics, so I don't know. Are they not reaching out to non-Christians? I don't know.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
I
I
don't pay much attention to politics.
Yeah, I get whatever pops up on Twitter, but I'm trying to think what are the big groups in the U.S. So Christians biggest, probably just general secular people second, right?
Something like that.
I mean, even like Muslims are like 1% of the population, so I don't know. I guess they're not focusing on groups that are smaller. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hi, David and AP. A few live streams back, you mentioned the idea of getting some guests to unpack different views of hell. Someone like Steve Gregg would be a good panel member for that. If you do, take care. Yeah, I am interested in that. In fact, Inspiring Philosophy is going to come on because I think he has some view. I think he's a kind of annihilationist, but not a standard one. He believes in eventual annihilation. Anyway, I'm interested in seeing what his views are, and AP and I will be raising probably the issue of whether it's what the Bible is actually teaching. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like that'll be like, is that what these passages are actually saying? I have no idea. It's not an issue I've studied or something like that. So I'd be interested in getting, I mean, you'd want probably if IP has a kind of different version of annihilation from other people, then we probably want IP on there to explain one version of that. Someone else, if IP's version is non-standard, someone else probably someone at some point for the literal view, probably someone from a metaphorical view, and um, interesting to find a universalist, like a sophisticated one, not like village universalism, like God
What
loves everyone,
about
so everyone's good. And then
what's that guy's name?
there's even a purgatorial view where you're punished for a time or something like that.
Isn't Randall Roser? Is that his name? Isn't he like a universalist in a way?
I don't know, but that dude has done nothing but annoy me ever.
Really?
I
Okay.
said something if it's the same guy I'm thinking of, I'm not positive. If it's the same guy I'm thinking of, I said on Twitter years ago, I said something like, "Hey," I don't remember what the issue was. I think it might have been like back, like, "Hey, I thought Black Lives Matter. What about all these Nigerian Christians who were just slaughtered? Why don't you guys focus on them?" And I think it was Randall Rouse. He responded, "And now no one ever will because of what you said," and blah blah blah. I'm like, what the heck? You think you think someone's actually gonna? I'm not gonna care about this because what David said in a tweet. I'm like, who is this? Who is this dude? Anyway, I'm not positive that we're talking about the same
Yeah.
guy there, but
Maybe it
if
was
it's that,
someone completely different. You're needlessly bashing the guy who has
if
nothing to
it's
do.
that would be funny if like if it's the completely wrong guy and everyone thinks he's a jerk now or something. um. Did you see the video of Palestine boy crying on the hospital bed? Thoughts on the video? Does it look like CGI? It kind of looks like CGI. I have no idea. I haven't seen it, but you wouldn't need much of a reason to do CGI because when bombs start dropping, there are plenty of photo ops, and that's part of the reasoning behind. Like you are going to have women and kids going through some really bad stuff. So I haven't seen the
Yeah,
video. I don't know, but I don't know why you would need CGI for this.
there is a lot of suffering. There is a lot of horrible footage going on. A lot of people are dying and dying in horrible ways or being injured in horrible ways on both sides. There's no denying that at all. And I feel like it's kind of unnecessary to engage in this whole competition of um, which on which side people die in what kind of horrible ways and whether it's authentic or not. It's quite obvious. On both sides, people have died and are going to die, unfortunately, in very terrible ways, and nobody should be happy about it. Nobody should be, celebrating it or minimizing the suffering of the other side. It's just that from how I look at it, it's clear that that Hamas is primarily responsible for what is happening right now.
Yep.
And if we want to minimize the suffering and find peace and want to prevent such horrible things from happening, which shouldn't be happening, then people should be getting rid of and focusing on getting rid of organizations like Hamas that are explicitly for war, for killing, and so on.
Yeah, it's no, guys, they're going to be horrible. In fact, they're going to be right now, as of moving forward, they're going to be way more horrible things coming out of Gaza than coming out of Israel. So,
Yeah.
go back a week. If you go back a week, it was this. These are the horrible things that happened in Israel. Israel happens to be much more powerful, and now you're gonna see the horrible things happening in Gaza, and you're looking at that, and the main issues are, one, what needs to be done right now, and because Israel does have to do something about these Hamas guys, and two, what can you do in the future to make this sort of thing stop? And those are the issues. But yeah, make no mistake, you're going to see lots of bad stuff happen. Lots of bad images. A lot of them will be fake. A lot of them will be recycled, but a lot of them will be real.
Yeah.
Ahmad and his wife started with a plan that turned into a scam that grew into a gang, the Gang of Islam. From Lil
Nice.
Bullet. That sounds like it could be a song.
Nice.
Some dope rap lyrics.
Solid.
Play the darn video. Ned Flanders.
What video? What are you talking about, man?
Yeah, well, I don't even know what this guy's talking about. Dude, it was like 1,000 years ago. He said, we're converting this to Q&A. We're gonna do the live stream about Ben Shapiro and Mohammed Hijab on a different day because everyone distracted me with all the super chats. But I mean, again, people are asking good, relevant questions here. So
Yeah.
sometimes people ask really, really dumb, just bring up dumb things that are meant to go off in every direction. But it's pretty good today. During Muhammad's time, there were many rival prophets who were preaching similar ideas, like Musaylama, who also were gangsters like him. That is why Muslims came up with the idea of no prophet after Mo. Yeah, you do have people claiming to be a prophet during Muhammad's time and afterwards. So that is one theory, that this whole thing about Muhammad being the final prophet is just meant to cancel guys like this. According to the Quran, this is something even Muslims don't know, even though it's right there in the Quran. According to the Quran, the reason for Muhammad being the final prophet is everyone already had their prophet. So Allah sent prophets to every group and in every nation. Everyone had their revelation, and the last people to receive their revelation were just the Arabs. And so Muhammad was the last prophet. He was the seal of the prophets, just because now it's all done. The last group to get their prophet had their prophet. Now everyone had their prophet in their own language. And so, what are you laughing at?
Yeah, all the other prophets, all of them, you can point at all of those prophets, the ones that came to, I don't know, the indigenous people of the, up there living in what is now Canada, the Inuits, the indigenous people living on the islands of the Pacific Ocean, all of those prophets, all of them, they all failed, unfortunately. But yeah, that's how Allah's plan works.
Europeans were also colonized. Arabs ruled Spain, parts of Italy. Mongols ruled over Russia, Ukraine, Ottomans too. It is a myth that others did not do it. Yeah, I mean, everyone's
Everybody
been
did.
the whole world. I mean, we've talked before.
Everybody
If you
did.
want to say, hey, this group had this, I mean, great. Give it to the
Dinosaurs.
animals, or give it back to the dinosaurs.
Yeah. The
Stephen
dinosaurs want
says,
their land back.
could you explain the difference between, we got to go rapid fire here. Could you explain the difference between Sunni and Shia Muslims in brief? Also, where are the Sunnis and Shias geographically? Love you both. Yeah, we should do some shows on different sects of Islam, because there's a lot more than just Sunnis and Shias. But yeah, the main difference just arises very early on. Muhammad dies. Sunnis think that he went with Abu Bakr. Shias believe that he wanted Ali to take over, and then you have a split. They eventually start fighting. After fighting for a while, they end up with different sources and so on. So they have some different teachings, and then they start splitting up in different directions and so on, and it goes all the way down to our time. But notice it's the very first generation that starts killing each other over this stuff. The first generation that Muhammad declared is the best generation. That's part of the reason. That's part of the obstacle to peace between Sunnis and Shias, is Muhammad declared the first generation is the best generation, and the best generation almost annihilated itself with fighting. As far as today, Iran is the heart of Shia Islam. You have places like Iraq, which have a like huge numbers of both. Most Muslim countries are vastly majority Sunni. Any thoughts on any?
Azerbaijan is also there are lots of Shia in Azerbaijan, which is because of Iranian descent. There are some places that have such. What often people don't know, what maybe many people are not aware of, is that aside from Sunni and Shia countries, there is one Muslim country that is indeed neither Sunni nor Shia, and that is Oman. That is a third branch, which is Ibadi Muslims. And they don't agree generally with the history and the succession of Sunni or Shia, and are kind of distinct from all of them, and are also, in terms of politics and all of that, quite different. But yeah, that's also a thing.
All right, rapid fire, because I'm supposed to be watching my kid right now. Is it just me, or does it seriously annoy anyone else when every action taken in war is called a war crime? Resources withheld under a condition that hostages are returned, that's a war crime. So yeah,
The super chat is a war crime.
yeah, I keep hearing that about everything. This is a war crime. They're doing this, that's a war crime. They're doing this, is like a war crime, and it's like, wait, everything you're saying is part of war. So you're saying war is a war crime. I'd be happy if we got to some
Saying
point.
war crime is a war crime.
I'd be happy if we got to some point in human development where there are just no wars and so on. But again, we're stuck with the idea, what do you do when a bunch of guys come and murder a bunch of people and then go hide in a population seems like they're going to have to do some bad stuff to get him back, and therefore, and what are you going to do? Call it a war crime?
That's
I
a
mean,
war crime.
keep in mind, some of the stuff may actually be war crimes if those are accurately defined and if people cross those lines and so on. But yeah, there is this tendency. They did this. Oh, they dropped the bomb. That's a war crime. That's a war crime. No, that's a war. Hypothetically, if Israel were to use a weapon which pinpoints and only kills Hamas members, no civilians, do you think there'd be no outrage? No, there'd still be outrage.
Yeah,
There'd be
I'm
less. I
pretty
think
sure
there'd be less outrage, but
yeah, but there would still be outrage.
David, I think you hit the nail on the head on what do you mean? You cannot defeat these crazy fundamentalists by force. It will take time. You have to show Islam does not make any sense through apologetics. Educate more Christians. Yeah. So any sort of like you stop terrorists from doing something. You can stop an invasion or something like that. But those are all temporary fixes, right? You could stop every terrorist in the world. More will rise up to take their place because of Islam. So at the end of the day, you have to deal with Islam. And you have to expose it. Thank you for shaving.
Yeah.
Thank you for caring, because I don't. I'm just kind of lazy as far as just let it grow. Super chat from Jordan Smith.
And what do you think about Islam?
David Wood and AP, is there anything redeeming in Islam? I would say nothing that you couldn't find somewhere else and even better.
One redeeming thing that I found in my own life is that leaving it made me much happier.
Yeah, and I have to say there were good things that Muhammad did, like he condemned child, infanticide and stuff like that. Look, you're doing something like that. I don't care who you are. If you're putting an end to infanticide or something like that, that's the same thing Christians did in Europe. Christians did it first. Christians in the Roman Empire did it, and then Muslims did it too. And so, at the end of the day, hey, if you're ending infanticide, I'm happy for you, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
Let's see. Where's Mohammed Hijab? Who are those guys? Here's my jizya payment. Can you give it to him? Yeah, we'll pass that on to Mohammed Hijab.
Should do that.
Hey, you guys should add "We Can't Stop the Gangsters" to your soundboards. That's true too. Now, these soundboards have a limited number of buttons, but that is a good one. That's probably a clip we want to have handy.
You can actually have, you can do like page 2, page 3. That can go on forever.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. But no, that is a good one. I'd rather have that video clip, like, and pull up the video clip rather than as a sound effect, because it was so good. Let's see. Almost through these. AP, before the Ottoman and the Roman Empires rules the land now called Israel, and do Muslims accept the notion that God promised that land to the Jews? Wait, before the Ottoman and Roman Empires ruled and now called the land Israel.
They accept the story. They accept the biblical notion that that Allah at one point promised that land to the Jews, and that they also.
Apart from general condemnations of the Jews, I can't even think of a passage which says that the Jews don't have the land. I mean, that the Jews were kicked off it or replaced or anything like that. You have a bunch of passages in the Quran which talk about the land that the Jews the Jews were given control over. In fact,
but Muslims just believe that after the Muslims came and went in there, that it is basically that they're supposed to take it. That is one of the prophecies of Muhammad as well.
Yeah. So notice this is the most popular verse of the Quran in the West. Usually gets horribly misrepresented and misquoted and parts ripped out. But what we usually hear is the Quran says if anyone kills a man, it's as if he's killed all mankind. Look at what it actually says. For this reason did we prescribe to the children of Israel that whoever slays a soul, unless it be for manslaughter or for mischief in the land, it is as though he slew all men. And the verse goes on to condemn Jews, children of Israel, who act extravagantly or who are bad or something like that. But notice it's Jews have authority to punish wrongdoers in the land. What land is that talking about? And AP is going to say China. I'm going to disagree.
It is China. Sorry.
All right. And Jordan Smith, sorry if you've covered this. I'm just joining, but did you guys see Ben Shapiro call out Andrew Tate on Piers Morgan?
Yes.
If not, you need to cover it. Yeah. There's so much drama because there's Ali Dawa going after various people. There's Mohammed Hijab going after Ben Shapiro. There's Andrew Tate going after Ben Shapiro and so on. So, yeah, we're just going to have to do a bunch of live shows. And what's funny is, like, even now when we when we have a show to go through one of those, we got totally distracted thanks to AP.
Always me.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and wait a minute. I see all these extra. I see more super chats here. I've gotten to the end of. It can't hold anymore as far as in the feed right here. What is this? Hey, that's weird. Okay, guys, I can't pull up any more super chats for some reason. I didn't know there was a limit to super chats.
That's funny.
That's wild, but I see more up on my screen than I have access to. All right. All right, we're just gonna have to wrap it up, man, because I'm supposed to be watching my kid right now.
Let's
So I'm going to be live tomorrow with Inspiring Philosophy. We're going to have it's on his channel. We're going to have an Old Testament scholar on there to discuss some of the supposed biblical prophecies about Muhammad and see what an actual Old Testament scholar thinks about this stuff. So we're going to check that out.
He will say yes, he was prophesied, right?
Yeah, he's going to. Well, I mean, once he sees as clear as day that Muhammad is mentioned in Song of Solomon 5:16, he's going to have no choice. He's going to have no choice. Yeah. So yeah, we're going to do that, and then me and AP will figure out when we're getting back to Mohammed Hijab and Ben Shapiro. And I was able to pull up another one, Dove King. I'd love to see you guys speak with Ryan Dawson. You know who that is?
Isn't that Nazi guy or conspiracy theorist Nazi guy? I'm sorry if I completely mislabeling the person right now. Yeah, okay, yeah, that guy is a. I'm sorry to say it, but from what I have seen of that guy, I have to say that guy is a nut job.
Is he the guy from Dawson's Creek?
No, I don't think so.
I don't know if that was.
But I think he's he's like I don't know, one of those severe conspiracy theorists. I think.
Yeah, I'd have to check him out, but if he's just an insane conspiracy theorist, I'm probably not interested. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna have to do a rain check. You guys completely derailed our intended live stream, but it was a good discussion. People obviously have a lot of things on their mind. So next time we will get back to Mohammed Hijab and Ben Shapiro. I'm going to have to change the title of this to like Q&A and stuff like that. So final words, AP.
I will stay away from Islam.
And, let's just close out. Been so many issues. Let's just close out with a little bit of music.
Ain't gonna follow no child molester, sex offender, private pretender. Ain't gonna follow no child molester.
Islam's not for me.
That's right, Hamas.
Islam's not for me.
We don't like your Allah.
Islam's
Not for me.
Yeah.
Cha 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 cha.